Hi everyone. Oh, my model died too. Ooh. Ooh, I look so unhappy. Everything is dying. Let's find out. Okay, I had to Alt F4 out of VTube Studio. I don't know, man, there's just some weird interaction between this game and everything else on my computer. And it just breaks. It just breaks everything. Hello. Let me grab a snack. Oh, I'm moving! Hello! This is too spooky already, real. Anyway, how are you guys doing? I'm sorry I wasn't able to do the drunk stream today as I planned because I just woke up with like my stomach just feeling so bad. I was supposed to be in office today. I ended up apologizing, being like I'll work remotely because like I feel horrible. Maybe your PC is just negatively diluted. Maybe! You know, you can never be sure. I'm a bit sad because I thought it would be fun to do a little drunk stream because it's been a while, but I don't want to risk getting drunk on an upset stomach. I don't feel like that's necessarily the best combo. Oh. Trying to stretch, get comfortable. Ah! My cable got stuck. Ah! Okay. I feel tired. Thankfully, I got 2 weeks while class is so pog. Anyways, how you feel? I'm so jealous. I literally, like... I have classes tomorrow at 8 a.m. I am scared. Because I haven't been paying much attention in lectures this semester. And... I feel like it's gonna bite me in the ass very quickly. Because I'm starting practicals. Oh, the pads are also not working because I 1 second. Oh, it's gonna break this way? Oh no. I reset it. Oh god, 1 second! We're gonna have to... There we go. And then... We're good now. So much troubleshooting. I'm sorry. Everything is against me. Did you guys know that? It is actually a true Hitomi lore that everything is against me. We are. I don't know, Chad. Are you not? Maybe sometimes. There it is. Maybe sometimes. Maybe most of the time. God damn you. But yeah, I'm excited to play more of this. I have no clue what to expect. But I'm glad that people are interested in watching me play this. Hey. Hey. Hi Melta, hi Sergia, how are you guys doing? Probably mostly lurking. Have fun with the head. Thank you. I think. Have fun with the head. Anyway, let us find out what the hell is happening. We found a little recap. It was showed that we are in fact Shogun, which is a bit freaky. So we're gonna see how the game continues from there, you know? Last time was a massive lore drop. Isn't this whole game a massive lore drop? I feel like it's just throwing shit at me and throwing and But yeah, we did just end on the part where it was sort of revealed to us that MC is, the protagonist, is Shogun. So he does but he completely doesn't remember being Shogun, right? So it's a little bit of like maybe like a split personality situation, or maybe something more supernatural. We don't know. And now apparently we're at the hospital to find out that we're actually not crazy. No, we just don't remember what we did, and have personality issues. But no, we're not crazy. We're so normal. Yep, chat. Also, before I start, I do want to say the whole fucking day, I have been craving pizza. And I keep on telling myself, I should not get it because I ordered KFC yesterday and it feels bad to order in 2 days in a row. But Jesus Christ, the whole day, I'm just like, Pizza Hut. That's another problem, is that I want Pizza Hut specifically, and Pizza Hut is more expensive. You guys do not understand my struggles, you know? Homemade pizza then? But I don't have ingredients. Cause I mean, like, if I were to make the dough, cause I don't have the dough, right? If I were to make the dough, that would take me hours. And I don't have, another thing is that, like, I prefer thicker dough on pizza, but I have never found like a ready thick dough in a supermarket. It's always thin crust. Hi Tax! Welcome! How's it going? The brain wars are taking over again? They always are. Maybe I should go to the hospital to get checked up. I should stop thinking about it. Pizza. Okay. I'm focusing on the game. It's fine. It's so fine. I actually have no plan what I'm gonna eat for dinner today, but it's so fine. The next day, I headed to the hospital. Last time, I hadn't been able to get the assurance I wanted, but today, I was going to make them tell me I was sane. Right, because if you go and make them tell you that you're sane, that is what makes you look sane. Yeah. I see no fault in that logic. I was going to have the doctor remember me. I was going to tell him that I was his patient until 4 years ago, and I was going to have him listen to everything I had to say. I wasn't the crazy one. It was the demon girl Misumi. I knew that's what he would tell me. This hospital opened at 8, earlier than a lot of them. That's why I had decided to come right on time. Only to find the lobby sofas packed with old people. How? How could there be this many people here when it had just opened? Had they all cheated and got here before it opened somehow? That's not fair! I was angry, but I didn't have any choice but to wait. It was after an hour of waiting that I realized I should have made an appointment. We're so smart. But very shortly after, they called my name, and I was relieved to see that I wouldn't have to wait as long as last time. But the doctor waiting for me in the exam room wasn't Dr. Takashina, but a white-haired old man I had never seen before.
Takashina sensei wa?
The nurse standing behind him, Hazuki I think, answered apologetically.
Takashina sensei wa mou imasen.
She said mo, so it's like he's not here anymore, right? Isn't here?
もういないというか、過労がたたって先週末に倒れてしまわれてね。
Damn.
今週はそれでずっと休みだよ。
Oh no. My one ally. My one ally. Wait, was it really overwork that made him collapse?
陰謀だ。
Of course, it's...
悪魔女の
No.
陰謀だ。
Hellfishes? No, it's a conspiracy. It's the demon girl killing him. This is the person who wants to get a sane diagnosis. Ally is a strong term to someone who doesn't remember you. That's true.
Nishijou-san?
She must have poisoned his food or sent him a threatening letter to stress him out. It was the demon girl's doing. She was trying to isolate me. I had no intention of letting anybody but Dr. Takashina talk to me. So instead of getting an exam, I fled from the hospital. I leaned up against the fence on the roof and looked up at the sky. Shibuya's sky was an ugly color.
病院にはもう行かない方がいい。
The demon girl's net was closing in on me. Maybe there was nowhere for me to run. Maybe the detective I had met yesterday was actually a fake and working for her. Maybe she had used him to test me. I mean, the timing was just too good to be a coincidence. She had showed me in my room. She had showed up in my room right after the two of them had approached me. She was a demon, after all. She wasn't human. She could easily control somebody's mind. I didn't have any proof of this, of course, but I also didn't have any proof that she wasn't a demon. Once again, I see no flaw in that logic. So I just had to assume the worst if I was going to survive. Wasn't there anybody on my side? Everybody felt like my enemy. Everybody felt like they were working for the demon girl. God. I love being normal.
助けて。誰か助けてよ。
Why didn't I have anybody on my side? Why was no one helping me? Why did this have to happen to me? I felt so lonely. I wanted something to support me, someone to protect me, something to protect me. Anything, anybody who could offer me help.
見つけて。早く。剣を。そうすれば、君は救われるわ。
Suddenly, I remembered those words.
剣。
This was a video game. The plot would probably involve me being a hero who needed to find a legendary sword to defeat a demon king. Oddly enough, I had heard the word sword from 2 Freedy girls lately. And there was still a chance that Fess was on my side. Girl B, Senna, I think, was likely on the side of the demon girl from the way she had acted, though. A sword.
剣だ。 剣を手に入れるんだ。そうすれば。
I whispered to myself as if I was in a trance. I was willing to cling to any hope now, no matter how small. If I could just get this sword, I would be released from this nightmare. I didn't know that for sure, but I had to hope. I didn't 100% believe Fess when she said it would bring me salvation, but I didn't have any other options. I decided to just look into it and see what I found. I ran a search online. First, I checked to see if there were any anime where characters had swords like the ones Fess and Senna had, but I didn't find any. I had mostly seen that coming. I always kept an eye on upcoming anime. There were 30 or 40 each season, so it was pretty hard, but I always watched the first episode of each series and decide if I was going to continue it. I used to do this when I was, like, in high school. Or, like, when I was unemployed. I used to, love just starting, like, old series that are currently airing and slowly throughout the season dropping the ones that were interesting me less and less, you know? Did you guys ever do that? I don't know, it's fun. I don't know why I really liked, just being caught up with everything and, like, commenting on new episodes as they come out. But then for a long while, I ended up not, watching anything that's currently airing. Now I'm kind of back to it. Oh my god, talking about, like, what's currently airing. Have you guys watched To Be Hero X? Jesus Christ, that first episode, it was so good. I'm so excited for more episodes. I actually don't know on what days that shit comes out. I should find out. How do I find out? Airing Sundays at 9:30 JST. Okay. So Sundays. It's so good. The Chinese anime, I heard good stuff about it. It's really good. I mean, like, at least the first episode that we've seen, it's the quality is crazy, you know? I was really, really shocked. I, like, really, really recommend. I said to one of my friends who, like, didn't know, like, what to watch this season and stuff, and I was like, trust me, just spend 23 minutes watching the first episode, and you'll see. It's so good. It's crazy. Oh. Oh, sorry. I hit the mic. I'm just trying to stretch out. Oh, that was a good crack. Ooh. I, like, cracked my neck, but I felt that in, like, my head. I always have a feeling I have to finish everything I started, otherwise my opinion is not valid. That's fair. I just, like, completely don't have that at all, but it's completely fair that, like, most people, like, want to finish what they started. There are a lot of art transitioning now from CGI to many art styles. Yeah, it's very fun. I like that. So, I'm sorry this is a spoiler. So if you mind a little spoiler the first episode, don't listen for the next 30 seconds. What they did that is really, really cool is that anytime there's a flashback, because most of the like animation is done in 3D, but anytime there's a flashback, they change to 2D. And I found that like especially really cool when it was a flashback to a scene that has been animated, and they could have just reused the existing animation, but because they wanted to keep it so that the flashbacks are done in 2D, they actually animated the whole scene in 2D as well for the purpose of that flashback. I thought that was really, really cool. Actually, I've had it happen where my opinion changed from I don't like this to okay, this was pretty good by finishing a game. It was Elden Ring. But I guess the question is, did you not like it because it was like difficult? Or did you not like it because you thought it was not a good game? Because with Elden Ring, like, those are two very distinct opinions, right? Because you can, like, for example, I don't like Elden Ring, not because I think it's a bad game, I just don't like Souls-like games at all, right? And I don't need to play Elden Ring to know that. Technically, I tried. I survived 1 hour and gave up on the game. I don't know, like... Anyway. We started yapping. And we're supposed to be gaming. And of course, I could watch anything that was on satellite TV using YouTube. So there was no way I could have missed one. And I hadn't seen an anime with these swords, especially ones with such a distinctive shape. I would have been sure to remember them if they had showed up, and I didn't remember seeing anything like them at all. Unless, of course, I had been controlled by someone else when I watched the show. Next, I decided to search for the swords themselves, not anime.
くそ、ほとんどがゲームの攻略サイトじゃんか。
What do you expect? Some of the swords that came up in the results were ones I recognized well, like Ieso's Shangri-La Edge. I wasn't getting anywhere. I needed to find that sword, and fast. I had a feeling that Senna Girl had said something more specific. What was it? I remember, or you'll be stuck in this nightmare forever.
答えろ。見えるんだな。
見えるかな？
ディソードが。
ディソード。
Right, the D sword. I searched for that word. And I got hits. Just 2, but these 2 links felt like the path that would just save me. Desperately trying to calm my excitement, I decided to click on the top one first. Shit, it was down. Damn it, why did it have to be a dead link? No, I needed to calm down. I decided to go back and click on the cached version. Wiki pedophilia. I hate it here. The page had an illustration. It was based off a description in old text, supposedly.
元ネタは伝承か。
D sword, delusion ideal sword. So none of us guessed what D sword would mean. A sword of negative darkness unleashed on the world called a D-sword, a fictional weapon said to be created in the ancient age of Europe by Gladiel, the king of wicked hearts. Made by feeding on humanity's negative emotions, they eventually came to devour the hearts of the Black Knights who took them. What makes them distinct from other sacred or magical swords is that they are said to be invisible. An unarmed warrior would wave his hand, and just as in the tales of the Kamaitachi, their foe's arm would be cut clean from their body and fall to the ground without them as so much as feeling it. There are many tales in the old legends of weapons like this which defy natural law, and the D-swords themselves appear in several apocrypha and ancient texts. The D-swords are considered to be another instance of the Kamaitachi phenomenon. Kamaitachi are fictional creatures often depicted as monsters with sharp scythes on their forelegs. But this is best understood as an attempt to depict them as the ancients imagined them. They are in fact creatures with little physical form, like wind spirits. Modern science has investigated the Kamaitachi phenomenon.
セナって女
I
が
wa-
持ってたのに比べると、こっちは
I
随分
wanted.
地味
I
だな。
pressed space, wanting to like close the bar. Is it backspace? It's backspace. I'm playing another visual novel where it's you press space for it. God damn it. Modern science has investigated the Kamaitachi phenomenon, and scientists now believe that it originated in a phenomenon seen in place with dry air, where a vacuum state is formed that can cut skin. Gladial Saga, a fictional novel based on Eastern European legends of Gradiol, the King of Wicked Hearts. This 23-volume high fantasy series depicts the war between 7 Black Knights and Gradiol, written by R.C.O. Ziegler. Published between 1929 and 1951 and translated into several languages, but commercially unsuccessful due to its complex writing style. All volumes are out of print in Japan and difficult to find. Why did it have to be such a minor weapon anyway? Why couldn't it be Excalibur, the Blade of Kusanagi, or something else big and famous? No, this wasn't the time to complain. Whether it was famous or not, if it was going to save me, I didn't care. I decided to look into it a bit more. I tried a second link on the search page. The phrase, "I bought a D-sword," stood out to me. Could you buy D-swords? The offer was evidently a man, which meant it wasn't a demon girl or Senna, because no one would ever lie on the internet. Oh my god. I bought a D-sword. I bought a sword. It's called a D-sword, I heard. I just love how freaking weird it is. Town Vanguard is my heart's oasis. These days, you don't see many stores as weird as this place outside of Akihabara. But Akihabara shops really aren't my style. It's either computer parts or prawn. Porn. With those guys. And that's not me, you know? There used to be so many cool weird places in Shibuya, but you can tell my age from me saying this, but they all disappeared as time went on. The Daily Story of a Masturbation Addict? Is that what it said? Now I can only read the Daily Diary, but I can't see what was up there. Can backlog? Or what? Nope. We're not gonna find out. Either they were a different person entirely, or the person writing the blog was deliberately disguising their writing style. There was no way to tell from here, so I stopped reading. The store the page referred to, Town Vanguard, was evidently in Shibuya. Those old shops were incredible. How incredible? They made Town Vanguard look like a toy store for little kids. Ruffalo Mayo. Anyway, enough about the past. Who came up with the name D-Sword anyway, lol? It's pretty big and it looks like somebody put some time into designing it, but the only reason it could have ended up in a place like Town Vanguard is that the cashier, Yotchan, likes that stuff. She even made a special corner for fantasy weapons a while ago, lol. It's got stuff like fake-ass looking lightsabers and light-up shurikens. Kind of a disappointment, honestly. I was hoping there'd be something cooler. I did end up buying something. It felt like too much of a coincidence, or maybe I was being paranoid. Maybe the reason I had run into 2 girls carrying D-swords in Shibuya was that the place selling them was here. Weird things got popular with small subgroups of people here in Shibuya all the time, right? I searched for Town Vanguard, but I couldn't find the store's page. I did find a page with a map, so I downloaded it. If they didn't have a public page, they probably didn't have an online store either. I searched the taboo auction site too, but didn't find anything. I'd have to go to the store directly to see for myself. I didn't really want to leave the house, but...
剣は手に入れなくちゃ。手に入れないとダメなんだ。
At this point, it felt like the one good option I had for fighting off the demon girl. I didn't know what exactly I would do once I got the sword. I didn't have the courage to try to kill her with it or anything. One second. Some people are singing on the street. At first I thought it was in the game. Then I thought I was going crazy. No, there's people singing on the street. Bro, I'm streaming here. Shut the fuck up. You start your choir classes on a different fucking street? Positive delusion for sure. I wish it was a delusion. I wish. Oh my god, sorry. That was it. The D-sword was like a good luck charm. Something to keep me going. There was something strangely compelling about it. The store was somewhere near Cat Street, it looked like. Cat Street was a twisty street that ran alongside Meiji Street, the main connection between Shibuya and Harajuku. I had heard once that it was originally a river that got filled in. Being the Lulu is my Solulu. Thank you, Nico. I'm gonna steal that line. That's hilarious. There were a lot of theories as to why it was called Cat Street. Some said it was because there were a lot of strays there. Others said it was because the street was as narrow as a cat's forehead, a common expression in Japanese. Not that I cared either way. Cat Street was a good distance from here. It would take at least 15-20 minutes to get there. A bike would get me there faster, of course, but I didn't have one. I didn't want to go near the station, so I opted to go for Shoto and cut across Miyashita Park. I walked a little fast across the bridge over Meiji Street. I was finally here. I was in such a hurry that I was starting to get frustrated at how long it was taking. Cat Street was, compared to Center Street, much quieter and felt more like Harajuku than Shibuya. All the stores were selling osare clothes, the kind I had never had any interest in. Daishipo. Okay, what the hell is osare? Hip or fashionable? Then just say fashionable. Like, don't leave the the Japanese word. I could tell I was out of place as I walked down the street, and I got more and more upset. This was totally outside of my usual territory. There were a lot more couples than there were in Center Street. I could tell they were all window shopping. Lol. Trying to show off because they didn't actually have any money. Losers. Ah yes. They're the losers. I almost regretted coming, but I checked those feelings down and told myself that I need to get the sword. I walked as fast as I could, face glued to the map, trying to avoid making eye contact with the people around me as I headed to my destination. Town Vanguard was down a narrow side street of Cat Street.
ここか。
One step down a side street and the whole place felt very different. The alley was narrow, cramped, and dirty, much too small for a car to travel down. The buildings were all old, traditional wooden houses, or empty stores with their shutters pulled down, and all the shutters had graffiti sprayed on them too. You see, even if Cat Street looked fancy with its luxury brand storefronts, that was all just fake. This dinky alley was the real Cat Street. Behind the facade, it was nothing but garbage and run-down old buildings. Of course, I didn't like the backside any more than the facade. I wasn't any more at home here than on the main street. I only had one home, ESO. Town Vanguard turned out to be a smaller and gloomier shop than I had expected. I could tell by the blogger who had mentioned it had called it underground. There was a sign reading open, but it certainly didn't seem busy. Going inside felt really hard. I was too much of a wimp to go into the fast food place all by myself. How could I go in such a creepy looking place? I wanted to go home. No, I needed a sword. What was I supposed to do? I went back and forth outside the shop for a while. There was absolutely no one else in the dark alley. I spent 30 minutes wandering around, trying to muster up the courage to go in, and not a single soul came by. Many times I almost felt brave enough to go in, only to give up at the last second. But I couldn't give up and go home empty-handed. This was the only place I could get a D-sword. But my instincts were unwilling to let me go inside. I had a delusion where the shopkeeper came out to meet me. Of course, she was a cute maid and she spoke to me in an anime form. Of course! Of course she was! I need another snack after reading that. That gave me a little bit of mental damage. Mm-hmm. She knew exactly what I wanted and offered me a D-sword with a friendly smile. Please, take this sword, master. I could be such a horn dog sometimes. Oh god. Everything would be so much easier if that happened, I told myself. Maybe my wish was heard by someone, because a pretty girl did come out of the shop. Her outfit wasn't anything like I had expected, though. It was some kind of ethnic clothing. It looked really flashy, but the girl herself seemed really gloomy. She had long hair done up in an afro, tied up in a bandana with a strange, eerie design on it. She said she had gotten sick of watching me wander around outside her store and so came out to check on me. My delusion hadn't become reality. Well, of course, that could never happen. Before I knew it, she had dragged me inside the store despite my reluctance. I hadn't even had the time to say no. I had ended up inside. I had overcome the first hurdle, at least. But what if this store was actually owned by the demon girl, and the whole D-sword thing was a plot to lure me here? I could be killed at any minute. I looked around the dimly lit shop. There were no other customers. The air was stale and there was a thin haze. It smelled like a mix of cigarette smoke and mold. 5 minutes in here and I'd probably be ready to throw up. I could see what looked like merchandise, but I couldn't tell if it was for sale or not. It was all placed randomly throughout the store, and to tell the truth, it might have all been garbage. It certainly didn't have price tags on it. And I realized after I got inside there were a lot of adult porno toys too. Of course. Of course. I try not to look at them. This place must have been some kind of adult knick-knack shop. Despite how eager she was to get me inside, once I was past the door, the woman quickly ignored me, and she sat down on her stool next to this register and smoked a cigarette. So this haze was at least partly her fault then. I hadn't even been inside for a whole minute, but a combination of nervousness and embarrassment, as well as how sick I was feeling, was making me sweat hard. I wanted to get out of here as soon as possible. Time to find a D-sword. Fast. I walked toward the back, looking at the shelves as I went. I quickly found the fantasy weapons corner that the blog I had read had talked about. This one part of the store stood out from the rest. There were several toys lined up carefully in a display. Toys themselves all looked cheap. Actually, I realized they were mostly just different colored lightsabers. I think I read too much yaoi that when I hear lightsabers, I think of something else. Some of them were so cheaply made that they were obviously fakes. I wasn't sure they would even light up. The light-up shurikens that the blog had talked about were sold out, it seemed. That was kind of a surprise. But there was one thing mixed in with the lightsabers that was very clearly different from the others. Just one look at it and I recognized it as a D-sword. It was just like the one I had seen online. I picked it up. It was lighter than I had expected. What was it made out of? Soft plastic? There was no blade. The edge was smooth. I ran my finger across it and of course, it didn't hurt at all. Compared to the ones that Senna and Fast had, it didn't have any weight or complex design and certainly wasn't sharp. Maybe it was a fake? I was a little worried, but this was the only thing in the shop that could possibly be a D-sword. Did this even light up? The one Fess had been swinging around at the concert had some kind of glass embedded in the blade, which had lit up with a pale light. It was really cool. But there was no glass on the one I was holding. Maybe I should just give up on buying it. This D-sword was such a piece of junk that I was ready to give up even after coming all the way here. But...
見つけて早く剣を
I mean, it's probably not the sword, right? Like, that feels a bit too easy. I feel like we're gonna have to look for a bit longer.
そうすれば君は救われる
Why is my dad calling me? Hi, so sorry about that. My dad might actually call again. It was actually very important. They're at some sort of department store or something, and there's a sale on makeup, and my dad just video called me and was like, look at this, do you want anything? Is anything here on like a good price? So it was an emergency, I get it, I'm not even mad. Okay. will continue, but I probably... Because I asked them if they could, like, find me some one specific thing, and he said, like, he'll go for the whole store, and if he gets to, like, where there's a stand with that brand, he'll call me again to make sure he's getting the correct thing. I apologize, chat, but I hope you understand that this is a higher purpose. This is a higher priority situation. I remembered Fess's words. Right, if I didn't buy it here, I wouldn't have any clue as to where to get another one. Oh my god, wait, he just sent me a photo. Wait. I had to send him a photo of exactly how it looks like. Maybe it just looked cheap, and when it recognized its rightful owner, it would suddenly transform into something with incredible power. Maybe I had just seen too much anime and manga. But Senna and Fez both had these swords that seemed to possess a strange strength. A strange strength. Why is it so difficult to say quickly? Maybe this sword would turn out to be the same. What should I do? As I stood there, uncertain, the clerk came up behind me. She grinned a gloomy smile and pointed at the D-sword. 10,000 yen, I'll throw in a little bonus, she whispered. I was so stunned at how cheap it was that I couldn't believe my ears. I had some decent savings built up from my RMT business. 10,000 yen was cheap enough that all I'd have to do was pass on buying a single figure. When I heard the price, and also that it was the last one the store had, I bought it immediately. The bonus was a cheap bangle bracelet. Total garbage. The true nightmare began once I bought the sword. Town Vanguard didn't ship. You had to walk home with anything you bought. Even if it was a toy, the idea of carrying this huge sword across the middle of Shibuya was enough to quench any excitement I felt. That is a bit silly to have to walk with that. I had already paid though, and the cleric steadfastly refused to return my money. This was going to be incredibly humiliating. I had to walk down some of the most fashionable streets in Tokyo holding a giant toy sword. Of course, the docking couples and well-dressed ladies all chuckled at me as they walked by. Damn it. I wish they'd all die. I headed home, delusions filling my mind of me swinging the sword wildly and murdering everyone in the street. I was finally home. I had started running once I had gotten close, and I was out of breath by the time I got up to the base. The cold gaze of the people I had passed had really stung. I don't know how Senna had managed to endure this humiliation. It was something I could respect, in a way. There was no way I could do it. Suddenly, I heard a sound from the other side of the base. Was someone here? I froze and gasped. I remembered the smile I had seen on the face of the demon girl who had called herself Remy. Maybe she would come back. This time, maybe she would come to kill me. What should I do? Run? I could sense the presence of someone in front of me. The setting sun cast someone's shadow on the ground. It was clearly the silhouette of a woman. I quickly raised my D-sword. Holding it in my hands like this, I realized what a piece of crap it really was. The one Senna had held had a strange power and intensity about it. But mine didn't seem to have anything like that. Maybe it was a fake after all. Could I really fight with this thing? Not a chance. Even if it was real, I still couldn't actually fight someone with it. Holding it in my hands, it felt weirdly heavy. Maybe I was holding it wrong. It didn't feel like something I could actually swing like a weapon. The shadow suddenly began to move. It was coming closer. I closed my eyes, thrusting the sword out in front of me at a random angle. Not that I expected to hurt anybody with it. But I had a faint hope that this sword could maybe, just maybe, help me. But then, nothing happened. My foe didn't say a word. Maybe the D-sword had annihilated the demon girl with a single swing. If so, that would be incredible.
鬼、その剣何？
I opened my eyes, but instead of the demon girl, I saw Nanami. She was looking at me with contempt in her eyes. The tension drained from my body. I collapsed where I stood.
お前、脅かすなよ。
This was just awful. She was an awful sister. What kind of awful sister likes to entertain herself by scaring her brother? Who the hell did she think she was anyway? This was why 3D girls would always be inferior to 2D ones.
別に脅かしてないよ。いつもみたいに鬼の
I
生
just
存
love
確
that,
認しに来
like,
てあげたんじゃん。
anytime
なのにいな
a
いんだもん。
woman does something that, like, anytime a woman does something that the protagonist doesn't like, it's just, I hate 3D girls.
なんでナナが30分もお兄のこと心配しながら待ってなくちゃいけないわけ？ナナの貴重な時間が無駄に消えてっちゃったじゃん。お兄のバカ。
Every time a woman does something, I get scared too. Thank you, chat. Thank you, Robin. Worry? She was worried about me? I refused to be fooled by such an obvious lie.
で、どこ行ってたの？出かけるなんて珍しいじゃん。携帯にかけても繋がんないし。
I had left the phone at the base. I knew nobody would call me, so there was no point in taking it.
そもそも、その剣何なの？もしかして買ってきたの？
She was staring at the sword, looking a little confused.
あ、わかった。アニメのおもちゃかなんかでしょ？ほんと、お兄ってオタクさんだね。しかもこのおもちゃ、ちっとも似合ってないよ。さっきだってへっぴり腰で構えちゃってて、思い出したら笑えてきた。
I ignored Nanami and opened the padlock on my room, then tried to head inside.
ちょっと、無視すんな。
帰れ。
You know I'm alive. Now go home. She was always making fun of me and had nothing but complain every time she came here. If she really hated it that much, then she should just leave. I certainly didn't want her here.
あのね、わざわざ様子見に来てあげてんだから、もっとありがたがってよ。せっかくお土産まで持ってきたのに。
She pouted at me.
お土産？
そう、お母さんが持ってけって。ほら。
She She handed me some mandarin oranges, 10 or so, in a red net bag. It wasn't a great present. I would eat mandarins if there were any laying around, but they weren't exactly a favorite of mine.
というわけでナナもちょっと一服したいから一緒に食べてあげる。
帰れ。
もう妹がお土産持ってきてしかも一緒に食べてあげるって言ってるんだよ。もっと喜びなよ。
What was there to be happy about? Why would I want to eat oranges with my little sister anyway? She probably just wanted to eat some herself. She always was a big eater. She used to always eat my food too. We got in fights about it all the time. Nanami went inside the base, ignoring my protests. I had no choice but to follow.
お茶ある？あったかいのがいいな。
Of course not. I only drink soda. Nanami sat down on the sofa and took out an orange. I sighed and set the dessert up against my computer desk. I didn't need the bangle, so I tossed it off into the corner.
あれ？それ何？
Nanami quickly picked it up off the floor.
へえ、かわいいバングルじゃん。
Wait, that is pretty cute. That is pretty cute, even if it's probably like some shitty $1 plastic. It's pretty cute.
これも買ってきたの？お兄にしてはいいセンス。
Cute? How? It was a cheap thing, probably not worth more than 500 yen. Nanami just had a terrible taste. I ignored her and took a seat at my desk, grabbing an orange as I did so.
ねえねえ、なんでこれ捨てちゃうの？
だっていらないし。
じゃあさ、これナナにちょうだい。
はあ？
いいじゃん、どうせ捨てるならさ。たまにはお兄ちゃんらしく妹にプレゼントの一つでもしてよ。
It's not a present, it's just some junk you want.
勝手に持ってけば。
ほんと？やったー。
We actually get a whole CG of her wearing the bracelet? Who cares? She was certainly easy to please. As soon as I gave the okay, she quickly put the bangle on her arm. Such a cheap little sister, enjoying such a cheap gift.
お兄、どう？似合う？
全然。
あっそ。お兄のバーカ。
I gave her a present, right? So why was she treating me like this? What kind of little sister calls her brother a jerk? Where did she learn to do that? Go play 100 age games and learn how to behave properly. I don't know if she should learn how to treat her brother from hentai games. I feel like that would have a very horrifying outcome. Let's not do that, you know? Let's not. Hey. She was smiling too. I was really getting angry.
これ気に入っちゃったからもう返さないもんね。っていうか、お兄からプレゼントもらうなんて初めてのような気がする。しょうがないから大事にしてあげるよ。
Whatever. Nobody asked you to. I didn't even buy it for you.
もう用は済んだんだから帰れ。僕は暇じゃないんだ。邪魔するな。
Suddenly, she looked upset.
そんな言い方しなくてもいいじゃん。それにみかんまだ食べてないし、お茶もまだ出してもらってないよ。
おめえに飲ませるお茶はね。
She glared at me, shoulders heaving with rage. Eventually, her eyes started to tear up.
わかったよ。そんなに邪魔なら帰る。
ああ、さっさと頼む。
兄のバカ。お兄なんてみかんの皮で目つぶし食らって失明しちゃえ。あとバングルは返さないかんね。バカ。
Her high-pitched yell echoed throughout the room as she grabbed her bag and flew out the door with incredible speed. At last, the storm was finally over. Every time I talked to Nanami, I felt exhausted. Why did she keep coming when she knew how much I didn't like it? Read the room.
ファーストメルトは期待以上の結果に終わりました。
Oh, what am I?
So
I tried to... I took a screenshot of something, and I tried to press Control V. But apparently what happened is I wasn't in Paint, I was in the game, and Control is skip. So now we're gonna read this from the log. You're welcome. I apologize for being myself and multitasking everything. Good evening, Fujoshi. Hi, Kirkos. The first melt ended with better results than expected. The increase in the GE rate showed only a minor deviation from initial projections. And the biorhythm control is going well, too. Shibuya's GE rate is higher than in other areas, and is especially stable, too. And that makes it easier to manipulate, in addition to drastically raise the people of Shibuya's biorhythms. Please see the report for a result of our experiments. You'll be satisfied, I'm sure. It's only natural that you deliver results given the amount of money and manpower we're offering you. I understand its effectiveness well. My church has found its believers growing exponentially over the past few months. Project Noah will advance to the next stage then. Will that be alright? What about the code sample? We've secured 3 people, but we're not on the target number, are we? Indeed. We need a minimum of 5. The sample hoarders are steadily gathering. All that's left is to take them when we need them. I'll leave it in your hands, then. May the divine light save us. Go about your efforts with the utmost caution. I bit back a yawn and looked over at my PC's block. It was showing 5 a.m. I had spent a whole night grinding in ESO and hadn't gotten the rare item I wanted. 8 hours of work and nothing. Well, it happened a lot. I looked over to the side of my computer desk. The D-sword I had bought yesterday was still there. It was close enough that I could grab it at any time. Hi, Carnaham! Welcome to the stream! How's your day going? It hadn't glowed at all for what it was worth. I was hoping that at some point it would transform into an awesome weapon like the one Senna had. On the monitor, Grimm's avatar had just leveled up. My Nightheart was max level, so he wouldn't level up again. As I rubbed my tired eyes, I wondered if it was time to make a third character after Wait. Lizelotta? I found myself thinking about experience points. I just remembered that Sergio called me out on saying it weirdly. There was something you saw a lot in video games, but the way I saw it, there were experience points in the real world too. When I had started ESO, I had been a completely clueless newbie, but now I was a Baselar's famous lightning-fast Nightheart, the game's ultimate warrior. Bit boring at work, but happy to be able to catch your stream. Well, I'm glad I can entertain you at work. I entertain myself during work hours today by consuming porn. Playing games that might have had NSFW themes. But saying consuming porn is funnier. Was it possible that some of the person inside me's experience points had been reset somehow? Maybe that's why I had forgotten things that I should have known. Maybe that's where the weird inconsistencies in my memories had come from. Like with Shogun or the Demon Girl. Before I had lost my experience points, I, that is, the person inside me, had used the nickname Shogun in chat. Maybe the Demon Girl, Rimi, had been a big part of my life too, and I wasn't a friendless otaku. No, that was going too far. But maybe before, I had had some kind of incredible power that would have let me fight the demon girl. I wonder if I was the only person who could come up with an idea like this. Not that it really seemed that strange to me. Did you ask Jared for some X Games? No. I mean, do you guys not feel like it's weird to just, like, ask someone for, like, porn games recommendations if it's someone you've never talked about that kind of stuff with? Humans could only ever judge things by standards they created for themselves. Did that mean it was possible that I, and not just me, but everybody else in the world, was wrong about everything? When I was little, I had gone to the dentist and they had said to me, "You did a great job, not crying when it hurts so much." Back then, I had felt kind of proud for enduring the pain, like I had done something special. But looking back, they were probably judging how much pain I was in by looking at how bad the cavity was. But maybe the same level of pain was really bad for some people and not so much for others. Maybe the way people felt things or sensed things was totally different. Take giving birth, for instance. I had seen a lot of people online, for instance, saying that women could handle the pain, but men couldn't. Or what about marathon runners? Maybe what made them special wasn't their stamina, but the way they could endure pain. Or maybe take S&M. Some people enjoyed receiving pain and some people enjoyed giving it. Maybe everybody had different ways of experiencing their senses and different levels that they could endure. Maybe the toothaches and headaches that I sometimes had put up with were a level of pain and beyond what an ordinary person could handle. And if I could pass that pain to them somehow, they would die on the spot from the shock. All this speculation left me with a selfish delusion that I was somehow special.
特殊な人間か。っていうか、何を大げさな。
I denied it, but I'm sure it was a delusion everybody shared. Every man wants to be the strongest in the world. Everybody wants to think they're special, chosen. They want to believe a dramatic future filled with adventure is waiting for them, like on TV or in the movies. The desire to be a hero, I guess you could call it. It was childish, really. Of course I had that same desire. Maybe it was my destiny in life to defeat the demon girl. Of course, if someone actually told me to do it, I'd have several conditions. I would need cheat codes, obviously, like God mode for one thing, or invincibility. I didn't want to be scared or get hurt. If I couldn't have that, in other words, if I had to do it right now, I would absolutely refuse. Which meant that if the person inside me's experience points had been reset, I might be at a big disadvantage. I was almost late today. Maybe staying up till dawn to play games before a school day was a mistake. I had to run to make it in time. When I arrived outside my classroom, I paused to catch my breath. I didn't want to do anything to attract attention from my classmates. Being late was a potentially fatal mistake. If any Dawkins took an interest in me, my life was over. I slowly walked into the classroom. My head was pointed toward the ground, and I avoided looking at anyone. Of course, I didn't give anyone a cheery good morning. I tried to make myself as invisible as possible as I headed for my seat. That was how I always did things. Like usual, I reached my seat without any issues and sat down. I quickly put my head down at the desk. Now I'd be safe for the rest of homeroom. Or so I thought, until I was lightly tapped on the back.
Yo, Taku. 今週は3回も学校来てんじゃねえか。真面目だな。
Turning into a teacher's pet. Misumi again. I sighed, but it wouldn't be right to ignore him. I began to raise my head and stopped. Was this Misumi really Misumi? 2 days ago, I had called him like the demon girl had told me to, but something had been very wrong. He had acted like the demon girl was in our class. That was impossible. Maybe the demon girl had brainwashed him. Or maybe he'd become somebody else entirely.
おい、どうした？早くも爆睡モードか？
A loud electronic noise echoed through the classroom. I felt a slight vibration near my chest. It was my phone! Damn it, why now of all times? What kind of idiot would call at a time like this? And why was it playing the ringtone when I had set it to vibrate? Maybe I had messed up the settings.
お、 鳴ってるぞ、タク。
I know that! Should I answer now? But if I did, Misumi would know that I wasn't asleep. And I didn't like answering the phone anyway. If I didn't answer, though, it would annoy the rest of the class. I think my phone's ringtone drowned out the rest of the classroom was bad. I needed to stay invisible. This was really bad.
おーい。出ないのか。マジで寝てる？
But now I had missed my chance. I couldn't move. Suddenly, the sound of vibration stopped. It must have gone to voicemail. I let out a sigh of relief, being careful not to let Misumi hear me. I was glad I had learned how to set up voicemail.
なあ、タク。相手は誰だ？まさか女か？この前一緒に帰ったあのメガネの子だろ。そうなんだろ？
Ah, shut up! I'm already attracting too much attention because of the phone call. Please just leave me alone. Was Misumi always this annoying? He was always too friendly, but he hadn't always been this annoying, right?
やめなよ。
That voice. It was coming from right next to Misumi.
そっとしておいてあげたら、大臣。
She's here! She's here! Ooh, the plot thickens.
なんだか疲れてるみたいだし。
She was in his classroom, acting like she belonged here.
どうせゲームのやりすぎだろ。お前、タクに甘すぎるぜ。
だって大臣は女の敵だし、そういう人には優しくしません。
She was talking like she belonged here. She was fitting in, like she belonged here. I was too scared to look up. I didn't want to admit that girl was there.
ま、別にお前に優しくしてもらわなくても、俺には優しくしてくれる女はたくさんいるんだよ。
だから、そういう発言が良くないんだってば。彼女さんが聞いたら泣くよ。今の大臣の彼女が誰だかわかんないけど。ほら、チャイム鳴った。先生来るよ。
Are we gonna open our eyes or not? Because this could also just be a delusion. We're not even seeing them. This could just be an auditory hallucination. Had the demon girl really always been my classmate? No, that wasn't possible. She wasn't here 2 days ago. Misumi was the only one who had talked to me that day. And I hadn't come yesterday. We don't even remember coming to school yesterday? And now she was here today. How had she wormed her way in? As the homeroom chime rang, everybody headed back to their seats. I fearfully looked up, trying to see as much as I could without moving my head. I wanted that voice to be a hallucination, and for that to happen, I needed to prove she wasn't in this room. I didn't see her. I didn't see the girl. Maybe it was a hallucination? My seat was in the 5th row. There were 9 rows in all. She wasn't in the seats in front of me. Did that mean she was behind me? But I didn't look back. I couldn't do something that would attract so much attention. Damn it, this was so frustrating. Was she in the room or wasn't she? I didn't feel the prickling on my neck. Nobody was looking at me. I couldn't sense anybody's gaze. Was she here? Was she not here? Which? I stared down at my desk, trying to see if I could sense her somehow. Then I heard the sound of the teacher coming into the room. I forgot their name. It was Tsukaji or Tsukada or something, I think. It was the phys ed teacher, and he was a huge meathead. But he didn't yell or do any physical punishment either. If anything, he was the kind of teacher who could take a joke. There was a mild murmur of surprise going up and down the classroom, but I was too busy thinking about the demon girl to worry about it. How the hell was I supposed to sense anybody? This wasn't a manga. Was I just stupid?
今日から転校生が入ることになった。
The teacher spoke in a whisper. So that's what the fuss was about.
ほら、折原、みんなに挨拶しろ。
I couldn't hear the transfer student's voice. Was she really here? I took a quick glance at the front of the room. Sure enough, there was a girl there. Chat, we got our first choice. Positive delusion, reality, or negative delusion? And I'll sip some water while you guys decide. Bad Delulu? Okay. She was really tiny. She might have been smaller than Nanami. She looked kind of weak and timid, in a Moa sort of way. She was pretty cute for a 3D girl. Maybe. For some reason, there were tears in her eyes and she was looking down. That wimpy-looking transfer student didn't matter at all. What mattered was Rimi. I had to do something about her. I heard a voice from the back of the class. Rimi! She had started talking. Kozua? Who the hell was Kozua? Who was Rimi talking to?
なんだ先畑、折原とは知り合いなのか？
そうです。
Rimi was talking to the teacher. I was getting even more confused. I couldn't even think straight. The delusion is that they know each other? The transfer student laughed innocently.
リミさんを追いかけて、私も来ちゃったの。そうなの？やることが大胆だな。
What? Was Rimi talking to the transfer student? Did they know each other? Was this transfer student a servant of the demon girl too? I froze, unable to do anything but listen to their conversation.
リミさん、よろしくね。こちらこそ。これから楽しくなりそうだね。
I don't like that.
Mm. すごく楽しくなるかも。
Yeah, I see the negative delusion now. Holy fuck.
だよね。楽しみ。楽しみ。ねえ、そう思わない？思うよね。西条匠。
ああ、どうやら折原は緊張しているようだな。よし、挨拶はいい。
The teacher's voice brought me back to my senses. I was so relieved to find out that this was just a delusion. The transfer student was still standing there, timidly, not saying a word.
みんな、この子は折原梢だ。仲良くしてやってくれ。折原、席は一番後ろだ。席についていいぞ。
The transfer student bowed silently and started to walk toward me. Her seat would be 4 rows behind me. I thought about pretending to follow her with my eyes as she walked so I could look back and see who was there. But if I did, I would stand out a lot. Some donkey might see me and say, "Don't stare at a transfer student just because she's cute!" And then they would try to beat me up. Yeah, that's exactly what you could expect. They would just try to beat you up for looking at a classmate. Yeah. What should I do? Turn around? Or wait until homeroom ended? My head drooped as I squeezed my fist tightly. It was no good. I didn't have the courage. If I turned around and saw her...
その人って
Huh?
悪い人なの？だったらね、本当に殺してあげてもいいよ。
The transfer student passed by me. I gasped and looked up at her. Our eyes met. She quickly turned away and passed me by. That voice. It was a delusion, right? Maybe as under so much stress, I was starting to lose sight of the distinction between delusion and reality. In the end, I stayed there trembling in my seat, lacking the courage to look around. I focused on trying to calm my fear of Remy, who I was sure was watching me. Homeroom came to an end as I tried to figure out the answer to the new doubts that were rising within my mind. There were 5 minutes until first period started. Misumi was already on his way to the new girl's desk. He was evidently aiming to start hitting on her on her first day. My other classmates were all curious about her as well. The classroom was a lot noisier than usual. On the surface, it was a peaceful, ordinary day. But to me, it felt like I was in the middle of an enemy camp. My heart was pounding so hard I wouldn't calm down. My whole body felt tense, and it took a lot of courage just to move a single finger. I was fighting the impulse to turn around, with the knowledge that doing so was suicide.
タク
My breathing almost stopped. My mind went blank. The voice was right behind me. She was here after all. She was right here!
具合悪そうだけど平気？
Run! Run! I tried to, but my legs were shaking too much to stand up. As I sat there frozen, the demon girl, Rimi Sakihata, came around to my front.
汗びっしょり。風邪でもひいたんじゃない？
Just like she had 2 days ago, she sounded worried about me. Just like she had 2 days ago, she offered me a floral-scented handkerchief. I didn't take it in. Instead, I wiped the sweat away with my hands.
なんて。
何？
I couldn't even look at her. I could hear in her voice that she was smiling, though.
ねえねえ、さっき何話してたの？
Rimi crouched down and put her hands on the desk, resting her head on them to look at me. She was looking at my face again. I looked away as fast as I could. Damn it. Was she just not going to let me escape no matter what? My heart was about to burst from fear. Somebody save me!
すっごく気になる。
What was she even talking about? Who was I talking to?
転校生。あの子がタクの机の横を通るときに小声でさ、ボソボソーっと。もしかしてあの子と知り合い？
Rimi was still smiling, but was I imagining it? Or did her voice sound like she was interrogating me?
タクってリアルの女の子に興味ないんじゃなかったっけ？もしかして本当は興味あるの？
What do you care? Was she trying to find out my personal information so she could threaten me or something? No, I wasn't into pretty girls. That was something I was always clear about.
じゃあさ、私にも実は興味あったりする？
I don't trust her at all. A freezing chill ran down my spine. More sweat was pouring down my forehead even though I had just wiped it away. Was that a threat? Or was she still telling me to join her? Or was she trying to act Moa and seduce me so she could set me up in a trap? Alarm bells were going off in my mind. I couldn't say another word to the demon girl or I was doomed.
タク？
I didn't even think about it. I just leapt out of my chair and ran out of the classroom, tripping over the other students' desks as I went. I ran straight up the stairs of the school building, up onto the empty roof. The girl didn't seem to be following me. But still, I couldn't relax. I decided to crouch down and hide behind something. My knees were shaking. I was amazed I had managed to run like this. Maybe this was just a sign of how desperate I had been. I couldn't take any more of this reality. Even the D sword I had bought turned out to be useless. I couldn't take it to school. It would stand out too much. I had let my guard down. When Misumi had told me that Rimi was our classmate 2 days ago, I had thought it was a lie. Or a delusion. Thank you for stopping by, TX. Have a great weekend. But she had really become a classmate. There was no sense in trying to figure out how she had done it. She was a demon after all. She could do things that humans couldn't. Maybe she brainwashed the class, maybe even all the teachers. I couldn't go to school. I couldn't go to the hospital. Yua had been at Cafe, and Shogun had found me online. Her servants were getting closer and closer to me. They were launching constant psychological attacks too. Maybe I'd do better to just not leave the base. There were too many enemies outside in reality. They were constantly threatening my peaceful life. I looked up at the blue sky, where the white clouds were flying freely, blown by the wind. If only I could be one of those clouds. About 3 hours passed. I spent the whole time silently crouched on the ground. For now, nobody seemed to be following me. He just sat there? For 3 hours? That's insane. Water. I was reading so much. Honestly, that's the least weird thing that MC has done. Fair enough. You're not wrong about that. Only after that was I able to relax. The problem was, what did I do now? Somebody was sure to come here to eat during lunch. Maybe my best option would be to run out of school and back to the base during 4th period. It would screw up my schedule, but I didn't have anywhere near the courage I would need if I wanted to go back to class with a demon girl waiting. My bag was still there, but I just have to forget about it. The only things in it were books, anyway. My important stuff, like my wallet and key, were all in my uniform pocket. Right? I got worried and double-checked. Wallet, key, phone, they were all there. Only then I remembered that someone had called me earlier. It had really freaked me out when it happened. Not as much as when Rimi spoke to me, though.
一体誰だ?
The only people who could possibly want to call me would be my family. It was most likely Nanami, right? She didn't care about whether she was bothering me or not. Who else would know that number? Oh, I also told it to those detectives. If it was them, maybe I should have picked up. We never did discuss exactly how they were going to send police officers to guard the base. The LCD display showed the number of the person who had called. It didn't look like it was Nanami. I noticed I had a voicemail, too. Sorry. Did I recognize the number from somewhere? I decided to check my call history. There were only 5 calls there. Chat, it's your time to decide. Positive delusion, reality, or negative delusion? Reality to the Lulu scenario scary. Fair enough. In other words, only 5 times had someone called me since I had bought my phone. 3 of them were from Nanami. What about the other 2? There was the one from 5 days ago and the one just now. Since their number wasn't in my contacts, it wasn't showing up as a name. They were both from the same number. 03X733X991. If they left a message, it must mean that they really wanted to talk to me. Who could it be? The police, most likely. It wasn't Misumi or the demon girl. Both of them were right in front of me when the phone rang. Who else could it be? Maybe Yua? But there was no way she could know my number, and there was nothing I had to say to her now anyway. The only way to find out was to listen to it. I looked around to make sure the demon girl wasn't anywhere nearby and put the phone up to my ear. Oh. What did I click? I don't even know how I got there. What did I click that got me to loading? Imagine if I accidentally, you know what? Because I'm terrified, like I would. Let's save. Because I'm terrified that if I was able to click that by accident, I would accidentally like load it and lose all of our progress, you know?
1件目10月17日金曜日午前8時28分の伝言です。
なんぞこれ。
What I heard wasn't a voice. It was a melody I knew well. It seemed to be playing somewhere far off in the distance. The caller might have been standing near a traffic light. You heard that melody a lot at crosswalks to let the blind know the light had changed. The song was called Toriansa, by the way. A lot of people knew the melody, but not many knew the lyrics, probably. I knew them for what it's worth. I learned them in elementary school. I didn't remember them completely, but it went something like this. Pass through, what narrow path is this? This is the narrow path of Tenjin. Please let us pass through. None may pass through, but that have business here. We've come to offer this talisman. For our child's 7th birthday, the going is easy. What is that translation? It sounded like the way back is beep boop beep boop. It sounded like an ambulance or something. It was probably a coincidence, but still, it was creepy. Just after the melody cut off, I heard what sounded like a loud buzzer. The volume was so loud, I yanked the phone away from my ear.
なんだ
I fearfully put the phone back to my ear, but the message was over. What was that about? It felt like I had heard the earth rumbling at the end, too. The buzzer was totally different than a traffic signal. If it was that loud, they must have brought it up right to the phone.
いたずら
My heart was racing. Had I done something to piss somebody off? Who had even made this call? I had their number, so I could call back if I wanted to, but I didn't have the courage. There was nothing I could do about it. And anyway, I was still in the middle of something much worse happening to me. I put my phone in my pocket and left the school, watching my surroundings as carefully as I possibly could. Takumi Nishijo's alma mater, Kitazawa Elementary School No. 2, was 5 minutes away from a privately operated train station. I've never heard anyone refer to their elementary school as their alma mater. That's so weird. Alma mater is like, what was the actual translation? Nourishing mother, but it generally means the school you graduated from. But usually you would say that that's the university you graduated from, right? or like the last school that you graduated from. So it feels a bit weird to refer to your primary school as such. Translation issues most likely. Does he? How does he? How do I? Wait. Let's. Oh, right. I can't. I was gonna like re-listen to the voice line, but I remember this isn't. MC isn't voice, so I'm not gonna listen to it. Yasuji Ban had the idea of talking to his old teacher, but when he called the school, he found they had passed away. Instead, he opted to talk to the person he had spoke to on the phone, the current head teacher, a man named Kamio. He and his partner had come here to do just that. It was a Saturday, and the school was closed. Ban and Suwa were standing in front of the school building, looking at it. There was a very eye-catching picture, drawn on its outer walls. Ban wasn't the artistic type. So it was beyond him what the thing might be. It looked like a spiral, but it changed into 7 different colors from top to bottom, so it also felt like kind of like a rainbow. Ban waved his fan as he stared at it. His partner Suwa pushed the call button on the gate. Ban suddenly looked around. It felt like somebody was watching him. It was an unpleasant, clingy sort of gaze.
俺ってそんなにかっこいいか
He struck a little pose. He looked stylish and cool, he thought.
先輩、何変なポーズしてるんすか？裏門の方に通用口があるんで、そっちに回ってくれって。
Ban gave up on his pose and sighed. He started to walk. It didn't take long to find the teacher's office. The back gate led to the school's rear entrance, and a turn up to the hallway inside took you there. There were, of course, no children inside the school. It may have just been the shiny linoleum, but the air felt cooler than it did outside. There were 3 teachers in the teacher's office. One of them stood up and bowed as the detectives entered. His rapidly graying hair was parted, and he had a pleasant smile on his face. This was Kamio. Ban and Suwa brought out their IDs at almost precisely the same time, giving brief introductions before getting to the point. It was Suwa's job to do the talking.
ここの卒業生である西条匠くんについて教えていただきたいんですが。
彼のことは印象に残っています。私は担任ではなかったから詳しくとなると無理ですが、それでも構いませんか。
Suwa nodded and opened his notebook to start taking down a memo.
西条くんはどんな子だったんすか？
難しい子だと聞いていました。特殊だと。
特殊？
本来なら他の生徒に混ざって勉強するのはとても困難な病気を患っていたらしく。
具体的には？
そこまで私が言ってしまっていいのかどうか。ご家族なり医師なりに聞いていただけますか。
Certain illnesses would normally make it very difficult for him to mix with the students. It was special. Almost all the schools were like this these days. They didn't want any trouble. They would refuse to do anything that could result in an angry phone call from a parent. It made a cop's job a lot harder.
担任の先生はなんで亡くなったんです？
事故です。 遠足の最中、乗っていたバスが陥没した道路に。
あ、自分それ知ってるっす。ニュースでやってたっすよね。
子供たちは怪我をしただけで、幸い命は助かったのですが、斉藤先生だけが犠牲になってしまい、なんともやりきれない思いです。
西条くんもその事故に巻き込まれた。
Kamyu shook his head softly.
あの子は当日欠席していて、バスには乗っていませんでした。
欠席の理由は？
Are they gonna get suspicious of the fact that he wasn't there?
病が悪化したと聞いたような覚えがありますが。
Van vaguely remembered the incident too. He had seen the media standing outside the house of the one boy who hadn't been injured for days on end, trying to get an interview. The boy had never shown himself, however.
あれは悲しい事故だったんですよ。
For some reason, Kamyu repeatedly seemed to put emphasis on the word accident. Does Kamyu not believe that it was an accident? Does the teacher think that it was actually not purely an accident? Ooh. Ooh. Having a quick chat with Grim before diving into ESO was becoming a daily routine of mine. We never talked about anything specific. We would swap information about the latest Achen threads, or talk about naughty stuff, or our latest favorite manga, or the anime we had seen the other day. Stuff like that. Oddly enough, we didn't talk much about ESO. We would do more than enough ESO chat when we were playing after this. Have you heard anything about weird pranks lately? What does Kusk mean? Washiko, or give me the details. It was just something I heard. I don't know if it's really something people are doing. But like, they play weird noises on your cell phone. Do they say naughty things with a moa voice? Okay, wait, I need water. I'm slowly killing my throat with how much reading I'm doing. Lol, what kind of age game is that, lol? I mean, if that was it, I'd love to get pranked, lol. So, what kind of whose eyes are those, is it? Grim kept using that phrase. Instantly, I felt sick. The sentence didn't even make sense. Was the phrase funny enough that he had to force it in everywhere? I didn't think so. I didn't think so, at least. If anything, it was stupid. But I couldn't start an argument until I had asked him about the prank. I decided to just put up with it for now. Like the sound of some nasty otaku jerking it? Lol. That would be awful. Actually, it's Toriansa. Toriansa? That's a song, right? The one they play on crosswalks? Yep. And then suddenly it changes into this bzzz noise. And it's really, really loud. You ever heard of a prank like that? I mean, it sounds like something ad-channers would do. That strange noise like that had been left on my phone yesterday. I didn't know who was behind it, and it was pretty unnerving, so I decided to try and ask Grim. If it was just a prank, I could forget about it. Huh? Why wasn't Grim responding? Hello? You fall asleep? There was no answer. It was rare for Grim to pass out on me during a chat. It had never happened before, actually. But if it happened, it happened. I would see him later in ESO and I could talk to him then. Just when I was about to get up out of my seat. Back, I ran a search on Achan about the prank you're talking about. Oh, was that what he was up to? But that would mean that even Grim didn't know about it, and he usually knew everything. Nobody was talking about it though. Not just on Achan, but on the rest of the internet. So it must be somebody who had a personal grudge against me then? I was starting to get really curious about who it could be, but I didn't have the courage to call them back. Sorry. I suddenly had an idea. If I knew the phone number, I could have somebody else call it for me. Maybe Nanami or Misumi. Those would be the two safest bets. No, Misumi was brainwashed by the demon girl. He wasn't a good choice. Nanami was my little sister, so it'd probably be easy to ask her. She would get really mad later, probably, but it wasn't my problem. It was the least she could do after all the bullshit she put me through. I said thanks to Graham and ended the chat, promising to meet up with him later in ESO. My stomach was starting to rumble. I was hungry. Did I have any instant ramen somewhere? Don't talk about food, because I'm gonna get hungry. Oh, now I want ramen. Or pizza. I'm still thinking about the pizza. Man. I looked but didn't find any. I'd have no choice but to go to the convenience store. Ramen pizza it is then. I think I've seen something like that once. Like they put like ramen noodles on top of pizza. I would probably still eat that. The sun had already set. I would have preferred not to be out at night if I could avoid it. Lately, only bad things had been happening at night. I headed to the convenience store, my feet moving faster than they usually did. It was Saturday, so normally I would have seen a bunch of people on the street. Today, it was empty. All the stores that would usually be open were closed. It was kind of strange. Maybe I had forgotten what time it was. I thought it was 7 p.m., but maybe it was actually 2 a.m. or something. Nah, no way. Still, it was way too quiet. You couldn't hear any of the noises you usually heard in the city. The town felt different, somehow. I made it to the convenience store in front of Shinsen Station. Even the area around the station was completely devoid of people. I was starting to get more than a little scared. When something you expect to be there suddenly vanishes, it makes you feel like you would have been sucked into some strange other world. Normally, I avoided any interaction with other people, but today I longed to see somebody's face. I ran into the convenience store. There should at least be a cashier here, I thought. I looked around. There was nobody. But there's Chad, who gets to decide if we have a positive delusion, reality, or a negative delusion. Well, I took a quick stretch. Bad Delulu, I want the MC to be traumatized? Okay. No customers? No employees?
まさか。
That was impossible, right? The cashier must just be in the back. If I took my stuff up to the register, they would come out right away. I forced myself to take my time picking out a boxed meal from the refrigerated section. I even pretended to look at the manga magazines before finally putting my meal on the counter next to the cash register. Nobody came out from the back. I started to have an awful premonition. This wasn't right. And I wandered into some place I really shouldn't be. As I stood in front of the register, I took a quick look outside. I couldn't see a single person moving on the other side of the glass doors, but I could see a silhouette, partially hidden by the shadow of the condo building across from me.
Huh?
The silhouette quickly hid, but still, I could see it clearly. There was something long and black in its hands, like a tube. Was that a sniper rifle? It would either be a police force mobile unit, or maybe the special assault team. I hadn't seen anybody because the police had sealed off the area. But why? Suddenly, I had a shocking realization. I quickly looked around the store before hiding myself behind a shelf. Could there be a hostage situation happening in the store? Maybe there was a criminal in the back room who had taken the cashier hostage. And maybe that criminal was the one responsible for the New Gen murders. Oh no. I crouched down with my head in my hands. Why had I come to some place so dangerous? And what were the police doing? They had this area sealed off. Why didn't they stop me before I came in? Was there any way to get out? If I stayed here, they would take me hostage too. Fortunately, I hadn't run into the criminal yet. If they were locking themselves up in the back room, that was my chance to run. I was so scared my knees were shaking. I could barely even stand up. Still, I somehow managed to stand up and slowly head towards the door when... It started with a really stereotypical message. The kind you didn't even see on police procedurals anymore. A policeman was yelling into a microphone outside the store. I was so startled that I hid behind a shelf again. It was like something out of a cheesy old movie. Didn't they have any hostage negotiators or anything? That was short. Just 30 seconds? Wait, force? Were they going to put the hostage in danger? If somebody tried that in modern Japan, wouldn't the media crucify them? What were the cops thinking? I held my breath and stayed as still as I could. My heart was pounding really fast. It felt like it was about to burst. If the police did come in, the store would turn into a war zone. I would be caught up in it. Maybe I'd get hit by a stray bullet and die. Please, no. The criminals seemed to be doing nothing at all. The inside of the store was dead quiet. I was starting to get mad. Why had the criminal done something so stupid? Come on, just surrender. Surrender or something might happen to me too. He doesn't know that he's the criminal, right? That's the bit here, right? That he's the criminal? I peeked out from the shelf and looked outside again. Shockingly, there was a full team of SAT snipers out there, plainly visible, pointing their rifles right at me. I quickly pulled my head back. The police seemed intent on shooting the killer. Was that even legal in Japan? I couldn't believe it. No way! Come on, please stop! I looked around helplessly before I happened to look down at my hands.
Huh?
For some reason, my hand was holding a knife. It was stained red, too. This was blood. I was confused. When did I get this knife? Where did it even come from? I heard a moan right next to me. The cashier was lying there. It was a dull, unimpressive-looking college kid. His hands were bound behind his back and his mouth was sealed with tape. He was staring at me. His eyes were flushed with terror. Why was he looking at me? Don't look at me like that! You're looking at me like I'm the criminal! Wait, the criminal? Am I the criminal? No, it's not me! I didn't do anything! We'll now shoot you dead. Not to be confused with we will now shoot you alive. No. No! No! Police don't act like that. Why would they scream fire anyway? Sheesh, this wasn't an old war movie or something. Several minutes had passed while I was lost in my delusion. There was no sign of any employee at all. I wanted to believe that the cashier was just asleep. So I waited another 5 minutes. There was still no sign of the cashier or anybody else. There wasn't even any sound. I finally got so scared I just put the thing back on the shelf and left. I came to the railroad crossing right next to the station. I could see the Shinsen station perfectly clear from here. There was no way a station platform could be empty. I told myself it was just impossible. But of course, there was nobody there. I decided to wait for a train to come. If a train stopped at the station, people would surely get off. And even if nobody did, I could see somebody in the train as it went past. I waited 10 minutes, and there was no sign of any train. I tried to tell myself that there might have been an accident or something that had thrown the schedule off, but there still wasn't a single person on the platform. Only then did I realize the seriousness of the situation. It didn't make sense. This wasn't right. I decided to head to Shibuya Station. There was always somebody there, I was sure of that. The area around Shibuya Station was always busy, 24 hours a day. I couldn't take the fear anymore, so I started to run. I ran as fast as I could. Even when I started running out of breath, I still didn't stop. I wasn't sure if I had ever run so hard in my entire life. As I ran, I wished this was all just some awful dream. But it wasn't. My heart and lungs were in so much pain I thought they would explode. There was no way this pain could just be a dream. I was so surprised at how intense my breathing was. But no matter how much air I took in, the pain didn't go away. I headed down Dogenzaka Hill and finally got within sight of the 107 building. By that point, my legs were barely moving. My body felt incredibly heavy. But I forced my legs to move forward. I didn't even have strength left for looking around me. My entire consciousness was focused on getting me to Scramble Crossing, the symbol of Shibuya. Almost there. Just a bit more. I just had to make it past the 107. Then I'd be in the busiest place in Japan, the place where everyone mixes together when the walk sign changes. That's why it's called Scramble. Scramble. Empty. The hall of Scramble Crossing and Shibuya Station were empty. A world without sound. A world that was dead. The air around the crossing was always filled with a flood of sound, but today, it was ruled by silence. All I could hear was the sound of my own panting. I fell to my knees in the middle of the wide road. I couldn't take another step. But more than that, the shock had drained all the strength from my body. Hey, that's the one place from the other puzzle visual novel from the demo stream. Oh yeah! Type Noise Shonen Shoujo. Yeah! That also took place in Shibuya. Ooh, I'm looking forward so much to the full release of that game. That was so good. There was nobody to my left or right, or my back or front. Anywhere. It was the busiest time of the week, 7 p.m. on a Saturday. What was going on here? This couldn't be happening. I closed my eyes and put my hands up to my head. This was a dream, an illusion. It couldn't be real. Sure, I thought I wanted to live a quiet life all by myself. I didn't want to get caught up in anything or have anyone meddle in my plans. But that didn't mean I wanted to be the only person in the world. There were no other people. Who was going to pay my living expenses? That's your problem? If there were no other people in the world, who are you going to pay the living expenses to? You don't need to. If there were no other people, who was going to make the meals I got from the convenience store? If there were no other people, who was going to play ESO with me? If there were No other people. Sound. I heard a sound. It wasn't me. It was a sound someone else made. Someone was here. Someone else was close. I felt saved. It was just random chance that the crossing looked empty. Nobody had actually disappeared. I hadn't been left alone in the world. I was almost ready to cry from sheer relief. I turned toward the sound.
君は
In a way, that's scarier than there being empty. That's more scary. It was a boy in a wheelchair. He was silently sitting there, some distance from me, but still in the middle of the road. It was hard to figure out how old he was. If I went just off his height, I would have thought he was in elementary school. He had a hat pulled down over his eyes, making it hard to make out his face. But
やっと会えたね。
huh? I'm so freaked out, dude. At that moment, Hitomi didn't realize what it meant to feel true fear. Yeah. The boy's voice was strangely clear. It was as if it was being whispered into my ear. I actually found myself turning around to check if someone was behind me. But of course, nobody was.
これどうなってるんですか
I asked him.
どうして誰もいないのか君は理由を知ってますか
知ってるよ。
His voice sounded young, but not like a child's.
それより、僕のメッセージは受け取ってくれた？
Message? I didn't know what he was talking about.
誰だ君は
Was the voicemail with the crosswalk playing supposed to be a signal that they're supposed to meet at Shibuya Crossing? Ooh. His wheelchair advanced forward, wheels turning just a little. Must have been an old chair because it made a rusty creaking sound as it went.
その目誰の目？でしょ？
Oh, I like that the heart, like the little heartbeat sound that started very subtly beating after he said that. I wasn't sure what to think. Why had this boy suddenly said, "Whose eyes are those?" To me right here, right now. Who was he?
目覚めるんだ。早く。出ないと、もっとたくさんの人が死んじゃうことになるから。
What is happening? Dad, what is happening?
君は一体
I rubbed my eyes, wiping away my tears. Only then did I finally see his face. That's how I feel right now. What is happening? The boy wasn't a boy. His face was wrinkly, like an old man. His cheeks were caved in. His eyes sank deep into his skull. The white's cloudy, and he had no eyebrows. Yet his body was as tiny as a child's.
僕は将軍だよ。
What? What? Oh, uh, uh, huh? I'm gonna need some backstory. We all will. What? I'm so confused and freaked out, man. For a moment, I forgot to breathe. My head felt like it had been hit by a hammer. The ground seemed to shake. No, it was my body that was shaking. I put a hand on the asphalt to support myself. Wait, what had he just said? Shogun. This was Shogun?
忘れないで。君は逃げちゃいけない。
I looked up and saw that Shogun had already turned away from me. His wheelchair was creaking as he slowly disappeared. It didn't even occur to me to try and follow him or ask more questions. Or to punch him in the face for getting me caught up in this. I wasn't any good at any of that stuff. My head was starting to hurt. I felt an aching in my temples. I stayed on the ground, trying to endure the pain.
タク
The silent world suddenly began to fill with static. Who was that voice? Don't look at me. The static began to change into a voice. Somebody was putting their hand gently on my shoulder.
邪魔なんだっつうの。
何してんだろうね。
最近の若いもんは。
なんかのパフォーマンスじゃないの？
タク
I looked up, still reeling from the headache. Demon girl Rimi was leaning over me and looking down into my eyes. Her eyes were clear and filled with life. Those eyes stared at me, and only me. Again. Once again, she just showed up out of nowhere.
歩ける歩いて
She put her hands under my arms and tried to help me up. I screamed and pushed her away. Then I came to my senses and looked around. It was still in the middle of the road, but I wasn't alone anymore. There were people all around me, walking past me without the slightest bit of interest.
タク
Rimi seemed like she was about to cry as she looked at me.
今は私の言うことを聞いて
This dude is freaky. Wait, look at this dude. I think it's like weird that it looks like he's just staring straight at us. Everyone else is just sort of doing their own thing. He looks like he's staring straight at us. Like, I'm scared I'm gonna go to the next line and he's just gonna like jump at me. I screamed, the aching in my head turning into a stabbing pain. I tried to fight for the pain and crawl away from her, to put as much distance between her and me as possible.
お前だろお前が見せたんだお前の妄想だ僕の心を支配して精神攻撃をこの悪魔めお前なんて剣で殺してやるベースに帰れば僕には理想
I felt a sudden shock on my cheek. It stung and it started to feel hot. Rimi had slapped me. This time, she was going to kill me. I tried to crawl away as fast as I could. But Rimi easily grabbed my hand. She pulled me close with a strength it was hard to believe a girl could have. and held me tight. Her soft body pressed against me gently. It was so warm, and I could smell just the slightest hint of sweat. Her long, flowing hair tickled my nose.
しっかりして。
It was the last thing I expected her to say. I could feel the strength leave my body.
ここにいたら危ないよ。
Her voice sounded a little sad. I couldn't tell if she was crying.
信号赤になっちゃってるから。
I wasn't sure what to think. Wasn't she here to kill me? Why was she saving me? Wasn't that hallucination of people disappearing from Shibuya something she had forced me to see? Once I had felt this gentle warmth from her. Once she had held me in her innocent arms. How could I still be sure? How could I stop myself from thinking that maybe Rimi Sakihata wasn't a demon at all? Was I just a fool? Was I falling for her tricks? The one thing I could be sure of was that I felt so safe and peaceful in her arms. What was this strange feeling? Rimi let go and then put her hands up to my cheeks and looked me in the face. Her eyes were a little red.
お願い。今は私についてきていい？
I nodded. We were standing in the middle of the now empty crosswalk. People on both sides of the road were staring at us as they waited for the light to change. I could hear laughter starting to bubble up from the crowd. The cars all had their headlights pointing at me and starting to honk their horns. Rimi held my hand tightly and started to run toward the sidewalk. I followed along, letting her pull me forward. We managed to make it through the noise of the horns to the sidewalk. Rimi let out a sigh of relief and stopped. She was still holding my hand. Just touching her made me feel calmer and calmer. It made me want to give in to the feeling and stay like this forever. Rimi turned toward me.
無事でよかったね。
She looked so happy. I couldn't believe that the look on her face might be a lie or an act. But
話してよ。
I had thought of her as my enemy for so long. I had thought of her as a demon. If I gave in, I would cease to be me. That's how it felt, at least.
あ、ごめんごめん。
She let go.
それにしてもびっくりした。タクが道の真ん中でうずくまってるんだもん。信号が赤になった時はどうなることかと。
She sounded happy. I turned away. I started to push through the crowds and walk forward.
僕帰る。
じゃあ送るよ。具合悪いんでしょ？
I could hear chasing after me, but I shook my head no.
タク。
The cheerfulness in her voice had vanished. I felt really bad since she had just saved me. So
ありがとう。
I just barely managed to squeak out the words. Okay, water break. Ugh. Thank you for the stretch. Let's pop some bones. Oh, wait, I never actually read the previous line. I certainly didn't think they would end up merging all three of the task force into one. Yasuji Ban sighed bitterly to himself as he looked at the rows of detectives assembled in the Shibuya police station's large conference room. The Inokashira Line Shibuya Station bathroom murder, where the media had taken to calling the vampire, had pushed the Shibuya police's available manpower to its absolute limits. And with 3 bizarre murders in the same district, it was looking more and more likely that the single culprit was responsible for all of them. Some officers had suggested leaving the Cornelius Tower suicide to the Youth Crimes Division, but the media was treating them as part of the new gen. And they take a lot of flack if it seemed like they were leaving it out. It was only natural that Haikyuu would decide to bring the task forces together into one team. Right now, the new, bigger group was going back over each of the cases individually. There was a big screen at the front of the room showing slides of the crime scenes. Suwa had been assigned to give the briefing on them. He and Ban had been up all night, frantically going through the case files for all 4 cases. "Good luck, kid," Ban said to himself, resting his head in his palm.
コーネリアスタワー集団投身自殺事件の発生は9月7日っす。ニュージェネとマスコミが故障している4つの事件の中では一番最初に発生してます。午後11時半ごろ、渋谷コーネリアスタワー屋上のヘリポートから男女5人が転落、全員死亡しました。5人は全員未成年の高校生、男が3人、女が2人。ただし5人のうち男女1人ずつだけが同じ学校なだけで、それ以外の3人はいずれも別の学校でした。5人それぞれの爪の間にわずかな肉片が残っており、手のひらに引っかき傷があったことが司法解剖で判明しました。そこから5人は互いに手をつないだ状態で転落したと推測されます。屋上には遺書らしきものはなし。被害者5人は学校帰りに待ち合わせてコーネリアスタワーへ向かったようです。なお、事件性があることを示す根拠としては、コーネリアスタワー屋上が関係者以外立ち入り禁止であったことが挙げられます。事件があった時間、屋上への扉は施錠されており、その扉のドアノブに被害者5人の指紋は付着してませんでした。また、5人の遺品からも扉の鍵は見つかっていません。
They teleported there.
このことから、被害者以外の第三者が事件前後にその現場にいた可能性があります。その第三者が扉の鍵を持っており、事件前あるいは事件後に鍵を閉めて立ち去ったという線で捜査を続けてます。コーネリアスタワーのホテル従業員全員への聞き取り調査は終了。ほぼ全員にアリバイがありました。今はタワーに入っている企業の社員に話を聞いているところです。被害者たち5人には今のところ自殺する理由は見つかっていません。家族、友人、学校の教師など5人中4人の関係者が口を揃えて自殺する理由などないと断言しています。
Ah! That's the first time we ever got an image of that. Ugh. The slight change, moving to the second case, the murder of the college kid and unborn baby under the Shibuya station tracks.
続いて、
Oh no! I pressed control by accident. Fuck! Okay, what can I do about this? Because I skipped so much. First of all, why does it, I literally have it, okay, first of all, I have it selected as don't skip unread, so why does it skip unread? Like, what? How do I fix this? How do I fix this? Do I have to just load? Do I have a quick save? Wait, quick load. I have to load and get through it. Oh my god. I'm so sorry, chat.
無事で
高熱入午後そこから屋上には被害者なお事件またこのことその第三者が
Thank you for the
扉の鍵を持っており事件前あるいは事件後に鍵を閉めて立ち去ったとコーネリアスタワー
Hi
の
Masked
ホテル
Visionary,
被害
welcome
者
to
た
the
ち家
stream.
族
How's it going?
友人学校の教師
Anyway,
など
let's
5人中4人の関係者が口を揃えて自殺する理由などないと断言してます。
there. This is what I can do. No, because you know what the problem is? That for me to turn my model around is the same button as the button to skip through shit. Thank you so much for the follow, Viguan. Welcome to the galaxy. Hope you enjoyed here. How's your day going?
続いて通称妊娠男事件についてですが
I'm protecting you, chat. Hello, Sideways Tommy. It's so good to have you here rather than Horizontal Tommy. Do you like Sideways Tommy more than Horizontal Tommy? Than Vertical Tommy? Yeah. Because this is Horizontal Tommy.
事件発生は9月19日通称集団ダイブ事件から12日後第一発見者は現場近くのカラオケ店店員遺体発見は午前5時前後
I'm censoring it, but I'm gonna let you guys know one thing that's really freaky, because I don't know if they'll mention it, is that there is a handprint on the dude's stomach.
被害者は渋谷区在住の大学3年生近衛千鶴21歳発見された時にはすでに死亡してました死亡推定時刻は遺体発見の約4時間前
Also
19日の午前1時頃です遺体は腹部が不自然に大きく膨れ上がっており中から胎児が発見されました司法解剖の結果被害者は生きたまま腹部を何者かに切開され
while he was
胃
still
の中に胎児を入れ
alive?
られたようです
Wait! All this time I thought it was done off after the murder. It was done while he was still alive? Horrifying.
胎児はすでにその時点で亡くなっていたと思われます被害者が死亡したのは腹部を縫合された後縫合した部分をかきむしったり縫合糸
Oh
を
my
一部
god.
引きちぎった形
So
跡
he
が
was
見られました
aware of it happening. That's so much scarier.
胎児は妊娠8ヶ月ぐらいの状態で母親の体から帝王切開で取り上げられたと考えられます胎児の母親については今のところ見つかってませんその生死についても不明です DNA 鑑定の結果胎児と被害者には血縁関係はありませんでしたちなみに胎児の血液型は B 型被害者の血液型は A 型です
So I paused to take a breath. Talking so much had tired him out, it looked like. Giving a presentation in front of this many older detectives was probably nerve-wracking too.
次に第3の事件丸山町貼り付け殺人事件です
There was a slight pause before crucified slide came up.
これが現場写真です
Okay, I think this is fine for me to show. It's not that bloody.
事件発生は9月29日被害者は太田久志56歳都東大学教授第一発見者は現場のすぐ近くのアパートに住む男性被害者の死因は絞殺でした殺害された後で10本程度の釘を使って貼り付けにされていました
It looked like way more. What happened to the rest? Do we imagine the rest?
見ての通り遺体には外傷はほとんどありません 釘についても貼り付けは一部肉体を貫通しているものもありましたが、基本的には衣服を通して貼り付
Yeah,
けら
this
れ
is
ている。
different. The original, like what we saw, was super bloody and had way more crosses. So was that just a delusion?
マスコミでは貼り付け、血の惨劇などと謳われてますが、出血は全くなし。
But why would the media be calling it bloody if it wasn't bloody? Is it the situation of like people getting their memories altered? Because that's so weird.
釘はドイツのクロイツナーゲル社が販売している特徴的な長い十字架のような杭です。犯人が十字架型をあえて選んだということから、宗教的な側面からも捜査を進めてます。事件の起きた21時から21時半の間に、現場周辺で壁に杭を打ち付ける音が数十分続いていたという証言が複数得られました。被害者の死亡推定時刻がほぼそれと同じ時間であることから、おそらく被害者は現場かそのすぐ近くで殺害されたと思われます。また信憑性は怪しいですが、事件現場で私立水明学園の女生徒を見たという証言も上がってます。
So at least they might say it's unreliable, but at least they like believe him enough to mention it.
最後に井の頭線渋谷駅トイレ殺人事件、通称ヴァンパイア
Is
事件で
this
す。
censored enough? Hi guys, how do I look? Oh, good. Don't think about what is still visible on screen. Don't think about it.
事件発生は10月10日。遺体発見は午前5時半ごろ、駅員が発見しました。被害者の身元は今のところ不明。身元を示すような遺留品は一切ありませんでした。死亡推定時刻は前日の午前10時から午後6時の間。遺体の血液はすべて抜かれており、まるでミイラのような状態で放置されていました。ご存知の通り、この写真が何者かによって撮影され、遺体発見より15分ほど前にインターネットのオークションに出品されており、
Wait, the sunglasses are star-shaped? Have you never looked at my face? Was this the killer's way of saying that death had become fashion or something? Chapter 4, D-Sword. Hi, all regular. I had to be sideways to censor not the most pleasant visuals. Matt, I mean, at least you're honest. You've been following me since September. You posted over 1,000 messages in my chat. And you haven't looked at my face enough to know what my sunglasses are. My god. Let's stretch. I'm gonna open a snack. I should mute because this is gonna be loud. Like a gummy bears, but they're like big gummy bears. They're like twice the size of like usual ones. The east building was located next to Shibuya Station. There was a small plaza just inside the entrance, which was often used as a meeting spot, even if it wasn't as famous as the Hachiko or Moyai statues. A dozen or so people were in there now, waiting and playing with their phones. Wait, no, this is gaslighting. Most of the time they're around. I swap between them. One of them was standing alone with a curiously stern expression on her face. She was a teenage girl named Sena Aoi. She went down the escalator on the second floor of Science City, the one that led away from the Inokashira line station. You would see her there, leaning against a white pillar, watching her surroundings carefully. Despite her stern expression in this season, she was nibbling on a popsicle. It was kind of cute in a way. Of course, she wasn't waiting for anyone. She was quietly observing the people coming and going around her. From where she was standing, you could see all the way to the big TVs at Scramble Crossing. They were showing a promo for some famous singer. At the bottom of the screen was a scrolling line of text talking about the New Gen murders. Not a day went by when she didn't see something about New Gen. The TV, the papers, the net, the magazines, even the big TVs in the city. Sena wasn't interested in them at all. But walking through Shibuya, she would often hear people talking about the murders. Whose eyes are those? Lately, she had been seeing people wearing t-shirts with that question printed across their fronts. It had gotten its start as an underground meme in Shibuya, and now it was getting out of control. Somebody at a Harajuku gift shop had started selling t-shirts and they had sold pretty well. At least that's what she had heard. At least that's what she had heard a smiling man say as he passed by her on the street. It was a good sign of how little people cared about anything but themselves. Sena gave a little snort of contempt before she ate the last bite of her popsicle, closed her eyes, a stern expression still on her face. She listened to the noise of the city. On Sundays, the area around the station was filled with many different sounds. Trains rattling into the station, taxi horns, people talking as they walked. Music from the big TVs and inside the shops at Science City. Announcement endlessly telling you how to safely ride an escalator. The sounds never stopped. As soon as one ended, another took its place. All the different sounds layered together into a dissonant jumble of static. Sena focused on the noise, directing her attention to the people's voices. Her brain shut out any other sound so she could hear the words clearly.
結局全部同じ
違
犯人なのか
うってニュースで言ってたぞ。手口が違いすぎるって。
怖くね？バンドの歌詞と一緒らしいじゃん。
ファンタズムな。
お前あのバンド
現実けど今時ファンタズム知らないなんてさ。
じゃあ CD 貸せよ。
遅れてるよな。
ほらこれ見てくれよ。この前からでしょ。
超ゲルのメタル
結構来るじゃね。
マジで来てるやつ初めて見た。
でもあれじゃね、これってニュージェネの犯人に
俺の顔が
殺してくださいってアピールしてるようなもんじゃん。
俺もいよいよ全国デビューが。
最近渋谷超怖くない？マジ嘘に歩けねえもん。入場なんかそういうクラスで殺される可能性あるじゃない？おじさんだぞ。キモい男とかだけ殺してほしいよね。マジ応援する。
Sena let out a little grunt. She stopped listening almost immediately. The noise offered her nothing useful. In the end, the noise was just noise.
この視線の感覚。気のせいか。
Sena looked around one more time. For a while now, she'd had this awful feeling, like a cold finger running down her spine. Someone's gaze was upon her. But she couldn't find out who it was. Sena stepped away from the pillar she had been leaning up against. And then, as if she had just remembered she was holding it, she stared down at the popsicle stick in her hand.
外れか。
She looked even more upset as she walked quickly towards the station.
あの空はどうしてあんなに泣きたくなるくらい青いの
What
かな。
makes the sky blue? Is this a Grand Blue reference? Because that's what I wished for.
私は望んでない。
I did. This is your mental world, but it's still mine too.
ねえ、あの空はどこにあるの？
Anywhere, if you wish for it.
望んでいいの？
Yesterday's Blood Tune was such a great episode. Seiratan had a lot of cool scenes, and there was also a sexy kiss. The animation quality was top-notch too.
起きたらおはようのキスしてあげるからさ。って私何言ってんだろ。バカバカ、今の忘れて。
And being super moa about it too, I had no choice but to get up. I ripped off the covers and got off the sofa with a moan.
ちょっといつまで寝てるんさ。このボケナス。こうなったら私のサムライコンデンサでぶん殴って起こし。
What are you yapping about? When I hit the switch on the alarm, Seiratan's voice abruptly stopped.
おはよう、セイラ。
My Seira voice alarm was a treasure of mine. If you didn't flip the switch, the volume would get gradually louder and louder before switching to an intense buzzer sound. The buzzer like in the voicemail? The buzzer like in the voicemail? I wanted to start my morning waking up with Seiratan, which meant I always tried to flip the switch before the buzzer sounded. I had only ever failed twice. Waking up with Seiratan always put me in a great mood. Sorry. Well, no. Actually, playing games all night and sleeping on a hard sofa made me feel like crap. But having Seiratan wake me up did make a little bit of the pain go away. Today was a school day. I had missed a full day last week and was starting to throw off my schedule. I was supposed to only go twice this week, but thanks to that, I'd have to go 3 times. I didn't want to go, but I had to. I need more skipping and I couldn't graduate. To be honest, even if I couldn't graduate, it wouldn't make that big of a difference for me. I had just had a dream about Rimi. It was a strange dream. Somehow nostalgic. Somehow lonely. Somehow sad. And somehow incredibly distant. I wondered if she was coming to school today. I had spent a lot of time thinking about what happened 2 days ago. I had spent so much time thinking about it that it cut into my ESO time. I didn't think much about Shogun or the delusion of the empty Shibuya. It didn't seem all that important to me. Brother! What are your priorities? The freakiest thing ever happened and you're like, eh. All of it was most likely just a delusion of mine. It was hard to believe that Shogun could be an old man like that. And thinking back, the idea of every single person disappearing from Shibuya just seemed silly. It was a very realistic delusion, but I found myself embarrassed by how easily I had believed something so impossibly could happen. What was more important was Rimi, the girl I had called the demon girl until just a little bit ago. In that place where it felt like a strange floating dream, she had held me tight, and I could still remember the feeling of her body. If she hadn't done that, I might have gone crazy. Why had Remy saved me? Was it because we were friends? I didn't have any memories at all of us being classmates since our first year, or of going to see a movie with her and Misumi. But the way she treated me was the way you had treated a good friend. When she had held me tight, she had looked a little like she was about to cry. That at least didn't seem like an act she was putting on. I had never met a girl who would cry over a creepy otaku like me. After seeing it, the fear and suspicion I had felt had just blown away. In fact, I almost felt like I could fall in love with her, though I stopped myself from going that far. What I felt most was uncertainty. How should I face Remy from here on out? Was she my friend or my enemy? Was she responsible for the Nugent murders? It was an undeniable fact that she had saved me. But it was also true that I had seen her covered in blood at the site of the crucified murder. Or is it true? Or is it true? I stopped at Shoto Park on my way to school. Ever since the incident with Yua, I had quit my habit of eating breakfast here. The idea that Yua could be out there somewhere watching me made it impossible to enjoy my meal. And even worse, if she came to talk to me, I would have to listen to a bunch more delusional nonsense. I didn't have time to deal with her. Yua works for Remy. That was my original idea, but it may have been wrong. That didn't mean that Yua wasn't an enemy, though. Maybe Shogun was the big boss and Yua was working for him. Whatever the case, it would be best if I stayed away from her. But today, I had come here for some reason anyway. I looked around carefully to make sure Yua was nowhere to be seen, and I slowly sat down on my bench. I took a bite out of the chocolate pastry I had bought at the convenience store and looked out at the lake. They keep mentioning Yua, but so far she hasn't been shown. Do you mean like since the last time we've seen her? Or have you just like not watched the whole chapter with her? There was barely any wind, and the water's surface was still calm. Once in a while I could see what might be a carp moving through the cloudy water. Well, I assume that like, because Yua does not go to the same class, she just goes to the same school. And dude just mentions her because he's fucking paranoid, right? I don't think it's that crazy. We'll see. There was nobody in the park today, which was rare. I choked. Oh my gummy. Oh my god. Don't eat gummy bears, kids. It was a very quiet space. As I looked around the park, I found myself thinking about Remy again. To be honest, I had almost decided not to go to school today just to avoid facing her again. That's why I had come here to the park and buy some time. I felt like I had said all kinds of awful things to her. Have fun, choke, Tommy! Crazy. Open. Sorry, I need to just look something up. Okay, sorry. But she had always smiled and been kind to me. And I was sure if I went to school again, she would come up to talk to me like she always had. She would pretend that what we experienced in front of the 107 had never happened. She would smile and treat me like a friend. Part of her constantly cheerful nature did seem a little obnoxious, but it also felt like if I stayed with her, I might start to feel cheerful too. What should I say when I meet her? I didn't think of her as a demon anymore. But it was also true that I didn't think of her as a friend. Misumi had said that she and I had been friends and classmates for over a year and a half, but I had no memories of that at all. Maybe something had broken within me after all. But could my memories of Rimi disappear while everything else has remained intact? Was that possible? I went into the school building and head pointed toward the ground as always. I did my usual thing of walking slowly on the side of the hallway while I headed for the stairs. My class was on the 3rd floor. It was kind of a pain to get there. I wish there was an escalator, actually. As I got up to the stairs, I saw a girl slowly staggering up them. She was dragging her right leg. Did she sprain it or something? Her tiny body was kind of wobbling as it walked. She looked like she might fall over at any minute. The other students were quickly passing by her while she went slowly up each step. From below, I could almost see her panties. Why are you weird? Why are you weird? Why are you weird? Oh my god. She's literally like struggling to get up. And that's all you have to say. I'm gonna eat a gummy after that. What the fuck? Crap, if I didn't do something, I would look like a pervert. 'Cause you are! You would look like a pervert 'cause you are! I didn't want anybody calling me a creep. I tried to quickly walk past her when... This sound effect caught me so off guard! It didn't even sound like she fell down the stairs, it just sounded like she... she just fell flat on the ground! Just plop! Am I evil for laughing at that? That's so funny to me. Oh my god, I actually have tears in my eyes. That made me laugh so much. Beautiful. The girl tripped on the stairs and staggered forward. And then she fell hard, right on her face. That doesn't look like she fell on her face, but what do I know? But what do I know? Fortunately, she was standing on the landing when she had fallen, so she didn't end up rolling down the stairs. But she was just lying there on her knees, not moving. Was this the beginning of something romantic? Was you looking up her skirt and then deciding to not help her the beginning of something romantic? I don't know. What do you think, dude? Not a chance. Even if it was, I didn't have the courage to talk to her. I quickly slipped past her. He actually is not gonna help her. She's literally bleeding. And he's like, anyway. Oh my lord. Sorry, but get help from Misumi or somebody else who likes 3D girls. Don't expect anything from me. But the girl still wasn't moving, and I started to get a little worried. When I got halfway up the second set of stairs, I turned around to check on her. She was clinging to the railing and trying her hardest to stand up. Her knees were shaking like she was a newborn deer. There was blood on her knee. Maybe she had scraped it. I pray on this man's downfall now. Demon girl, get him! Real.
Huh?
I had seen her face somewhere before. Was she the one who had transferred into my class last week? What was her name again? Couldn't remember. And she was crying too. Did it hurt that badly? Sure, it was a bad fall, but it shouldn't have been enough to make her cry. Nobody else was trying to help her. She finally managed to just barely stand up and then began to look down at her knee. She seemed to be checking how badly it was hurt. She wiped away her tears and put down her bag and started to rummage through it. What was she trying to find, I wondered. She suddenly pulled something out of her bag and held it above her head like she had won a great victory. In her fingers, she held a bandage. Our eyes met. She quickly flushed with embarrassment and looked down. Well, she seemed okay. She didn't need my help at least, right? I decided to just head to my classroom and leave her there. Oh my god. I kept my head down and my gaze glued to my feet as always. I arrived at my seat wordlessly. I'm just in such shock. Actually, hadn't that girl said something to me on the day she had transferred here? I have forgotten all about it, what had happened with Raimi, but what has she meant?
Yo, Taku.
As always, Misumi said hello to me. Maybe he didn't have any friends besides me. That would explain why he only ever seemed to talk to me, at least.
聞いてくれよ。昨日さ、怪しいおっさん2人が校長室に入ってくのを見たんだ。
は？
で、俺とリミトでこっそり盗み聞きしてみたらびっくりしたぜ。その2人、刑事だったんだぜ。
え？
Detectives?
なんか深刻そうに全校生徒の名簿とか見ててよ。もしかしてニュージェネと関係あんのかな？
Maybe the Nugent killer goes to our school. For some reason, I found myself thinking of Rimi's face.
なあ、盗み聞きしてたら見事にバレちゃったんだけどね。
My body froze. Speak of the devil, I heard Rimi's voice and my heart rate jumped. I couldn't look up. I was too nervous. It was a totally different type of nervousness than what I had felt last week, though.
あれはお前がドア勝手に開けたせいだぞ。分かってんのか？
しょうがないでしょ。本物の刑事さんって見るの初めてだったからちょっと興奮しちゃってつい。
Why does she look like she's taller than him? Isn't she supposed to be tiny?
何をどうやったらついドアを開けるんだよ。おかげで俺らまで刑事から話を聞かれる羽目になったんだからな。
大臣ってば刑事さんに聞かれちゃまずいことでもあったの？
そういうお前はどうなんだ？
さあね。
The two of them were talking, one on each side of my desk. They were both totally ignoring me. But to be honest, I preferred it that way. If Rimi talked to me, I wasn't sure I could answer back. I was hoping that a bell would ring, but when I looked over at the clock, I saw there were 5 more minutes until first bell.
そういやタク、ここに来る途中で梢ちゃん見なかったか？
Kazuha? Who's that?
ああ、そっか。どうせお前のことだから覚えてねえとは思ったけど、マジでそう。先週転校してきた子のことだよ。折原梢ちゃん。
Oh, so her name is Kazuha Orihara.
階段で
階段？
見た。
お、そっか。じゃあもうすぐ来るな。
Misumi's voice was filled with eager anticipation. I hadn't seen him this alive since he had found that Thess was a girl in the next class over a few days ago. I had never seen him excited about anything that didn't involve girls, actually. Come to think of it, hadn't he tried to hit on a transfer student on her first day too? It was kind of impressive, actually, especially since he already had a girlfriend.
なあ、梢ちゃんってマジ可愛いと思わねえ？
I wasn't sure how to answer that. I gave him a vague nod. He seemed to take it as a yes.
太郎俺一目で気に入っちまったよ。なんか守ってやりたくなるんだよな。男子みんなも同じ意見だよ。ドイツも可愛いって言ってんだ。けどよ、女子の間じゃあんま評判良くねえんだよな。
In hindsight, I feel like gummies might not also be the best thing I should eat when I know I have an upset stomach, but gummies make me happy. So...
まだ転校してきたばっかだぜ。それなのに早くもうざいみてえな意見まで出てきてんだよ。このクラスの女子って性格悪いやつ多すぎだ。
それって大臣のせいじゃないの？だいたいそのうざいって言ったのどうせ大臣の彼女でしょ？
ああ、そうだけど。
Oh yeah, why? Okay, zero self-reflection.
そりゃあ彼女にしてみればうざいに決まってるよ。自分の彼氏が目の前で折原さんを口説きに行っちゃってたらさ。私でさえよく喧嘩売られるんだから、大輔くんに近寄らないでって。しかも一人じゃなくて何人かから言われた。
マジ？
自覚なしか。少しは反省したら？
いやー、モテる男はつらいぜ。
これだよ、さすが女の敵。もう私フォロー
An
してあげないからね。
enemy to women everywhere. She's not wrong.
あ、折原さん来た。
なんか怪我してるみたいじゃね？
本当だ。どうしたんだろう。
It was from when she had tripped on the staircase. Of course, I didn't tell them that. For now, I wanted to minimize the amount of time I spent talking to Rimi.
俺、ちょっと言ってくれ。
Misumi ran off toward a transfer student. Rimi was now the only one standing next to me. Please, Misumi, don't leave me. Oh. And Chad gets to decide positive delusion, reality, or negative delusion. Oh, good crack. We got one vote for bad delusion, one vote for positive delusion. Okay, we got 2 votes for positive delusion. Yes, sir. Rimi didn't say a thing, but she didn't make any move to leave either. I kept staring down at my desk, so I couldn't see the look on her face. Oh god. I could only see her waist, but I could tell that she was facing me. She was looking at me. I would have to work up my courage and act natural.
おはよう、崎畑さん。
おはよう。
Okay, good. First contact had worked out well. I gave a sigh of relief, but Mimi frowned slightly.
ねえタク、なんで急に妙竹林の呼び方するの？
妙竹林？
崎畑さんなんてなんだか他人行儀。今までみたいに呼んでよ。
Would I always call her? I wasn't sure what that was, but
じゃあリミ
お、なんだいタク。
いや特に何もないけど。
じゃあ私から一言。
she coughed and looked around to make sure no one was watching before bringing her face close to mine.
タクは大地みたいになっちゃダメだよ。ああいう女たらしはいつかひどい目に遭うに決まってるから。
あ、うん。肝に銘じておくよ。
タクのそういう素直なところ、私好きだな。
You like me, huh? Wait, was I a good boy from her perspective? Crazy.
そもそも私、大臣のことで一つだけどうしても許せないことがあるんだよね。あれだけあちこちの女子に声かけてるのに、私には全く見向きもしないってこと。ひどいと思わない？
え、三角くんに口説かれたいの？
Well, it would only make sense if she did. He was attractive and fun to talk to. Even if he was a playboy, I could still see girls wanting to date him. Remy, however, gave an obvious frown.
タク、冗談きついよ。大臣に口説かれるなんて想像しただけで鳥肌立っちゃう。
She wrapped her arms around herself and shivered dramatically.
私はノーサンキュー。でもなんていうのかな、女としてのプライドっていうものがあるわけじゃない？ねえ、タクから見て私ってどう？魅力ある？
That was a hard question to answer.
どう？
Her eyes were gleaming with excitement and her chest was puffed out with anticipation. Well, sure, I guess she was attractive, but it took a lot of courage to say it out loud.
み認めたくないものだな。
若さゆえの過ちというものを。あ、
引っかかった。
Remy grinned, satisfied. Was she an otaku, maybe? I chuckled a little. This was a silly little conversation, but it was a lot of fun. I'd never really talked to a girl like this before. For some strange reason, I felt like I could get along with Remy. So the next words slipped out of my mouth naturally.
リミは魅力的だよ。
Remy flew back in an exaggerated gesture and turned bright red.
面と向かって言われると。
She got so embarrassed, she is now 1 foot shorter. 1 foot shorter.
でも、ありがとう。タクにそう言ってもらえるとすごく嬉しい。大臣に口説かれるより1億兆倍嬉しい。
1億兆なんて桁はないけど。
なんとなくニュアンスで分かってよ。それだけスケールの大きい嬉しさってこと。
This must be what a normal kid's life is like. Having conversations like these every day. Every day must be fun and fulfilling. The whole world must look different. But I couldn't be like that. The real me couldn't even look at Remy. I was just staring down at my desk silently. I hated my own cowardice. What cowardice? How depressing.
タク？
Since I wasn't saying a single word, Remy seemed a little scared when she talked to me. But I couldn't even react. From her perspective, it must look like I was ignoring her. In my mind, I knew this wasn't right, but I still couldn't bring myself to do anything.
大丈夫？
This time I nodded desperately. I probably looked really weird.
そう。だったらいいんだ。
Her tone was gentle. It was impossible to believe, but she was actually sticking with me for my silence. She wants to know if I'm okay, huh? Suddenly, I wanted to ask her, when she had seen me in front of the 107, how had the world looked to her? From the fact that she hadn't brought them up, she might not know anything about the people disappearing from Shibuya or Shogun in his wheelchair. Did that mean they really were part of my delusion? I wanted to ask Rimi that, but I didn't feel like I could raise my head and ask any more questions. Not today anyway. I wasn't ready. I'd ask next time. Next time I came to school. Yeah, that was it. I'd take some time and think about everything I needed to ask.
あれねえタク、折原さんがこっち来たよ。
The transfer student? Why would she be coming over here? Was she going to get mad at me for not helping her on the stairs? She didn't look like that type of girl. Maybe she wanted to talk to Rimi, not me? The transfer student stopped right next to Rimi. She wasn't saying anything. What was going on? With Rimi here, I couldn't look up. The transfer student's feet seemed to be nervously fidgeting, but she didn't say anything.
折原さん、どうしたの？
For some reason, she put a single bandage down on the edge of my desk. It was a fancy one and had a weird character, Garo Froggy, on it.
Huh?
Was she giving me this? I wasn't sure how to react. This transfer student Kozuo Orihara was a bit of an odd one. Huh? Was she crying? Why was she crying? Because I didn't say anything? But she didn't say anything either, right?
タクは怒ってるわけじゃないと思うよ。
Rimi backed me up. It felt strange. I didn't know anything about Rimi, but she knew all about me.
彼ってあんまり人と目を合わせようとしないの。引っ込み思案ってやつ。だからそんなにガチガチに緊張しなくてもね。え？私にも絆創膏くれるの？ありがとう。
The transfer student bowed and ran back to her own seat.
なんだかよくわかんないんだけど、タク、その絆創膏もらってあげるべきだと思う。
It just feels like she's like awkwardly trying to make friends. It's kind of cute. Why had she given it to me?
梢ちゃん、無口だよな。
I could sense Misumi coming back.
転校初日に俺が校内を案内したんだけどよ。
うわぁ、早くも手出したんだ。
まだ出してねえっつうの。んで、まあ1時間ぐらいかけてあちこち回ったんだけど、もう俺一人で延々と喋り続けたよ。あん時はさすがにちーっと疲れたぜ。しかもすぐ泣きべそかく。
そうそう、今も急に泣き出してから何が起きたかと思ってあたふたしちゃった。
そんだけピュアなんだよ。なあタク、お前ならわかるだろ。梢ちゃんの仕草一つ一つの可愛さってのがよ、お前流に言うなら萌えってやつだ。なんだ、クソでも我慢してんのか？
I shook my head as hard as I could.
タク、さっきからちっとも喋ってくれないんだ。
That's because you're here, Rimi. I'm not ready to talk to you. I had never really talked to a female friend before. I never even had a female friend.
でもさ、今折原さんと話してみてなんとなく思ったんだけど、彼女と話してるとなんだか疲れちゃいそうかもなんて。
女子ってのはマジで同性に対して容赦ねえな。ま、梢ちゃんは俺が守るからいいけどな。
ほんの数十秒前に大地も相手するの疲れたって言ってなかった？
うっせ。梢ちゃんはタクと同じ匂いがするぜ。
Same smell?
って感じ？
それはわかるかも。
The sound of the bell told me that all my classes for the day were finished. As soon as I heard it, I packed up all my stuff and headed out the door. I wanted to get back out of there as soon as possible, partially because of the awkward distance between me and Rimi. But also, I had something to pick up at Manga Daraka today. Pick up. In the end, I was never able to say a word to Rimi. I had several chances to talk to her, but I kept silent the whole day, just like I had done in the morning. Maybe that was mean, maybe I just made it even harder to talk to her next time. I felt like maybe I was only making things worse.
Oni!
Okay, maybe this is a good time to stop. I'm gonna do a quick save and a normal save, just to be sure. Really intriguing game. I am excited to play more. But for now, I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna go find some good food to eat. Thanks, Purple vtuber. You're welcome. Honestly, as much as it's funny, if people genuinely like when they think Purple vtuber, they think of me, I think that's pretty good branding. Get pizza? I wish. I shouldn't. I shouldn't spend the money. But thank you, everyone. I'll see you guys tomorrow for Split Fiction with Jared at the 1 hour later than usual stream time. So hopefully maybe tomorrow we'll finish the game. We'll see. It's probably gonna take 1 or 2 more streams to finish. Thank you again, everyone, for hanging out with me. I'm really happy that, you guys are enjoying the visual novel with me. Hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye-bye.